Chapter 12:21. After Qin Yin left, Tully returned to Claude's side and said respectfully, "Lord Juggernaut, who is this powerful woman?" "Why, Tully," Claude said, "she is the goddess of grace, Qin Yin, also known as Xin. She is Shi Yan's younger sister and was once one of the battle angels of the Western Divine Realm. From what Shi Yin said, Shi Yan and Eva have already begun to rebuild the Western Divine Realm. You are a god under the jurisdiction of the Western Divine Realm. Go, do your best for the Mahayana Heavenly Tao and the world. This is something you must do as the Summer Goddess. You are still young and have a long way to go. Work hard and you may be able to reach Sheen's level." "Lord Juggernaut, can I really do it?" Rest for a night and ascend tomorrow morning. I believe that Shi Yan and Eva are waiting for you, the Summer Goddess." "Yes, I understand." After Tully left, an old man in a black robe appeared behind Claude and said, "Juggernaut, are you really going to hand over the Western Divine Realm to the two traitors, Shi Yan and Eva?" "What else can I do?" Claude let out a bitter laugh. "The era that belonged to me has already passed. I will accept my fate. Furthermore, I also hope that the Western God Realm can rise and prosper once more. Elder Kate, do you still remember when I was young? I once swore to become a great seraph and bring glory to the Western Divine Realm. After so many years, it seems that these vows have long been forgotten. It was only when I lost my power and everything that I remembered my promise. I don't want to get myself involved in that endless abyss again." Elder Kate smiled faintly and said, "Maybe you're right. Everyone has their own ambitions. Fine, let's see what Shi Yan and Eva can do. Don't worry. Since Sheen is already in the Western Divine Realm helping Shi Yan find the luminous primordial stone, it means that Tang Xiaoxi, who is almost inseparable from Sheen, is also in the Western Divine Realm. Perhaps the legendary martial god Lin Muyu is also working for the Western Divine Realm. Shi Yan will do it. She will do everything that I want to do but am unable to do." Elder Kate, a shooting star streaked across the sky and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Humans were like this, and so were gods. The only thing that never changed was the universe. The only difference between humans and gods was the length of their lifespans. However, in the vast river of time, their lifespans were as short as a firefly's beam or a small boat's leaf. In the shattered cauldron realm, the spirits of all living things were gradually recovering. In the forest, an old man sat quietly on a flat rock. Around him were the sounds of deer chirping and wild apples eating. Wisps of spiritual light lingered around him. The old man's hair and beard had long turned white, but his face was still very ruddy. The dragon bone staff in his hand was glowing faintly. Swoosh! A golden light fell from the sky and landed on him. He didn't even need to think to know what had happened. At that moment, he had an insight into the laws and the true meaning of the heavenly Tao. Around him, the barren grassland began to recover. The grass and leaves grew at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, the area within a radius of a few miles had become a lush forest. It was very different from the early spring scenery in other regions. This was the power of recovery, and it was also the power that Chu Chu was about to obtain. Clang! There was a muffled sound of thunder in the sky. The heavenly melody scroll slowly unfolded, and Chu Chu's name was clearly written on it. Goddess Nuwas Dharmakaya appeared in the sky and said in an extremely calm voice, "Chu Chu, you have distanced yourself from disputes and have compassion for all living things. You have obtained the approval of the heavenly melody scroll of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. Today, I will bestow upon you the Dharmakaya of a first-tier middle god. You will be titled as the God of Recovery and will be bestowed with the power of recovery. I hope that you will inherit the heavenly Tao and protect the Mahayana heavenly Tao for all living things in the world." Swoosh! A huge golden figure seeped into Chu Chu's body. That was his Dharmakaya. In the blink of an eye, Chu Chu seemed to have become much younger. His hair had turned white, and his face was rosier. He said joyfully, "Thank you, goddess, for bestowing this Dharmakaya. Chu Chu will do his best to subdue demons and devils for all living things." Goddess Nuwa's figure slowly faded away. Chu Chu stood up and looked at the animals gathering around him. He smiled and said, "All of you, go and start your new life. It's time for me to leave. The heaven realm needs the strength of this old bag of bones." The deer, rabbits, and other animals seemed to understand Chu Chu's words and dispersed one after another. Chu Chu took a deep breath and soared into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Tianji City. Amidst the pavilions, a handsome man looked up at the sky and said, "Another one who has ascended to become a god. It's Chu Chu. Even Chu Chu has ascended. We, the younger generation, are still idling around here waiting to die. Prince Xian, what are you saying?" Lin Sun smiled and said, "Chu Chu's name has long spread across the world. It's only a matter of time before he gets his Dharmakaya. Moreover, we're not idling around here waiting to die." Feng Jixing smiled and said, "Zhang Wei, how's the military situation at the eastern battlefield?" Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, "There's not much resistance at all. After Chen Yu's henchmen were wiped out, basically all the provincial governors of the Celestial Empire surrendered at the mere sight of us. They don't dare to resist the cavalry of our imperial guards at all. That's within expectations." Feng Jixing's lips curled up and he said, "We must pacify the entire realm within a month. Do you understand?" "Yes, we don't need a month. Half a month will do." At the side, Guan Xing cupped his fists and said, "Prince Xian, I have something to say." "Mister, please speak." After discussion, the Congress decided to establish 2 great congresses 2 days ago. After the vote, Guo Huaili will be appointed as the chief of the Lanyan City Imperial Congress, ruling over the entire Shattered Cauldron realm. Meanwhile, the deputy chief, Jianghu, will rush to the Celestial Pole Continent as soon as possible to take up the position of the chief steward of the Celestial Pole Continent's Congress, taking charge of all the political affairs in the Celestial Pole Continent. Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and sat down on the railing, remaining silent. Zhang Wei said, "This so-called Congress is just creating trouble." Before Her Highnessing left, she clearly said that all the important military and political affairs in the Celestial Pole Continent will be managed by Prince Xian alone. Why is this Jianghu creating trouble again? Feng Jixing nodded and said, "The 4th clause of the Empire's constitution states that all the political affairs shall be managed by the Congress. It's within expectations that they'll send Jianghu to take charge of the political affairs. It seems that it's just as you said. Guo Huaili, that old fox, is already taking charge of all the political affairs in the world." Lin Sun's gaze was filled with killing intent. "Why don't I send someone to the Shattered Cauldron realm to kill Guo Huaili?" "No." Feng Jixing waved his hand and said, "Now that the world is stable, the commoners need a stable life. Guo Huaili has long been recognized by the commoners as the most capable subject in the world. If we were to get rid of Guo Huaili now, it'd mean that we'd become enemies with all the people in the world and become the criminal warlords that you spoke of. Let's just bear with it. It's fine as long as Guo Huaili doesn't go overboard. As for that Jianghu, if he wants to take charge of the political affairs in the Celestial Pole Continent, then let him do so. I'm happy to see Xiaoyao. But," Zhang Wei said, "are we just going to let these vile people defecate and piss on our heads?" Feng Jixing smiled. "If he really dares to defecate, then I'll help him support him. Zhang Wei, you old brat, remember this. Don't mess things up. It's easy to kill Guo Huaili, but once you kill one, a second Guo Huaili will soon appear. From the previous emperor until now, Jin Yifan, Tang Lan, Su Muyun, Zhuang Yan, and so on have appeared one after another. Which one of them isn't a person that no one dares to approach for a while? But now, where are they? There'll always be someone controlling the political affairs, and we can't kill them all. What we can do now is to respect him a little, and he has to respect us a little. I understand. Oh right, is there any news from Lanyan City? Are Chu Yao, Wei Chou, and the others all right? They've arrived at Lanyan City safely. Guan Xing smiled. Don't worry about that. Great Deacon Chu Yao is the person in charge of the spiritual medicine department, and she's protected by the Dragon League experts. Lord Wei Chou is the commander of the Longdan army camp, known as the commander with the strongest military force. Guo Huaili wouldn't dare to touch the Longdan army camp even if he had 10,000 guts. Yes, that's right. Feng Jixing nodded. Times had changed. Back then, Zhuang Yan dared to act like a tyrant because he had 700,000 soldiers and had internal and external troubles. But now it was different. The world was stable, and the Longdan army camp was the strongest army in the world. 200,000 soldiers guarded Lanyan City all year round, serving as the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards. It could be said that Wei Chou controlled the military affairs of the entire Shattered Tripod realm single-handedly, and he also had the support of famous generals such as Ding Shi and Tang Zhen. Guo Huaili could at most be in charge of political affairs, but he definitely couldn't be in charge of military affairs. Lin Sun suddenly coughed and said, General Feng, have you agreed to Miss Si Kongyao's matchmaking for you? What did you say? Feng Jixing was dumbfounded. Lin Sun said, that, it's the Empire's Shang League's Shang Qian. Miss Si Kongyao said that as long as you give the word, she'll go and lobby for you. Shang Qian is also single now. She's pretty and rich. If I were you, I'd marry her. Marry your granny. Feng Jixing said, I can do whatever I want to do happily and freely by myself. Why do I have to marry a wife and have her manage me? You guys are still too young. Moreover, Shang Qian isn't my type. Then, what type does your highness like? Someone with a good disposition, a pretty face, big breasts, a good figure, a good temper, understanding, not clingy, and not mischievous. What do you guys have to introduce? Zhang Wei grinned. Drunken Cloud Brothel's little Yinxiang, all right. Feng Jixing clapped his hands and smiled. Settle all the military affairs before dinner and then go. Yes, your highness is wise. Guan Xing was speechless. He said in a low voice, how are they going to ascend to the Mahayana heavenly way if they're like this? Another knight had fallen in the eternal sword domain. This time around, they did not stay in the mountains. After all, it was too dangerous. Lin Muyu, Lia, and Zhang Wei stayed in a tavern. This kind of tavern was protected by thick stone walls. It was like an ancient castle that could withstand the invasion of demons. It was a place that travelers often stayed in. However, the fees were very high. A single person did not need to pay for a night, but they had to pay 15 jin of food. In the eternal sword domain, food was money, and it was even more useful than gold coins. Lin Muyu paid the price of 2 bare legs to stay in the tavern. It was already a blessing from the heavens to be able to spend the night in peace. Chapter 12:22. The tavern was called Shun Feng Tavern. In the eternal sword domain, there were countless taverns like this. There was an endless stream of travelers, and the tavern always made a killing. Lin Muyu, Lia, and Zhang Wei sat at a table by the fireplace. They used the flames in the fireplace to bake some flatbread, and then ate the vegetable soup and roasted meat sold by the tavern. There were about 20 tables scattered in the tavern's main hall, but there were not many customers. Only 5 or 6 tables were occupied. Most of them were people eating with their heads lowered, preparing to head upstairs to rest. Ta. Zhang Wei gently placed the bowl of soup on the table and said in a low voice, "My lord, it seems that we have been targeted. The people at the table in the corner are hunters. I think I've seen one of them before. He has noticed me too. Don't act rashly." Lin Muyu said, ignore them. Unless they are prepared to make a move, we will leave tomorrow at daybreak. Don't cause too much trouble. At this time, 5 or 6 martial artists at another table were already drunk. One of them said, I heard that this afternoon, the people at the Qichen mine dug up a demon's lair. When they opened the entrance, the workers were scared out of their wits. They abandoned the mine and ran away. The mine owner was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. He spent so much money to dig up a demon's lair. What bad luck! He can only blame himself for running into a demon. He was lucky enough to keep his life. That's right, that's right. Lin Muyu frowned and said in a low voice, the Qichen mine. Zhang Wei, do you know where this mine is? It's not far. It's about 5 kilometers away. Why, does Milord want to go there? I need radiant primordial stones. I won't let go of any of them. Ria couldn't help but laugh. Others can't wait to hide when encountering a crypt demon. Who would come looking for it yourself, master? Zhang Wei rubbed his nose. To be honest, the crypt fiends can't hurt Milord. The disparity in strength is too great. However, the mine owner should have sent someone to guard it. Moreover, the news has already spread. There are definitely many people from all over who want to excavate the crypt fiend's lair. After all, a god's gem isn't an ordinary item. It's priceless. A god's gem is worth around 30,000 gold taels. Even if you open 10 mines, you might not be able to earn that much. Are you saying that there will be people going to the demon's lair like us every day at dawn? Yes. If I'm not mistaken, this group of people's target is also the demon lair. Zhang Wei pointed to a few tables not far away and said, good men and women are already asleep at home. Who would come to such a barren mountain? Those who dare to come here must not be afraid of death. Just wait and see, tomorrow will definitely be lively. Ria blinked. Master, are we still going? Sure, why not? All right. In order to save money, the 3 of them stayed in a room. There was only a small vent in the room, and the wind howled. The only bed was given to Ria. Lin Muyu sat on the windowsill and cultivated the whole night. Zhang Wei leaned against the door and slept the whole night. In fact, everyone was already used to this kind of life. One night with or without a bed. The next morning, they woke up early and drank the rough wild vegetable soup cooked by the innkeeper. It made them feel nauseous. After leaving the tavern, they headed straight for the mine. It didn't take long for them to travel 10 miles. When they arrived, it was already sunrise. Once the sun rose, the demons wouldn't easily leave their lair. They hated sunlight, just like how people feared the dark. As expected, when Lin Muyu and the others arrived at the mine, the wooden fence around the perimeter had already been torn down. The ground was full of messy hoof prints. It was already hot. There was only one pit and one entrance, but now it was surrounded by dozens of people. A few of them were from the tavern last night, and a few others seemed to be from the Hunters' Union. Zhang Wei couldn't help but chuckle. The leader of the Hunters' Union, Luo Xingji, had already ordered the members of the Hunters' Union not to participate in commercial cooperation, and it was obvious that these hunters had been hired. Who are you? Stop. 2 warriors came over with swords in their hands and shouted from afar, this mine is under our control. Unauthorized people, leave immediately. Ria laughed. I remember that this area doesn't belong to anyone. Why do we have to leave when you control it? Besides, why are you so overbearing? Because we are from the Tiger Plain. Can we? One of them looked very arrogant. The Tiger Plain? Lin Muyu frowned. She had no idea what that was. Zhang Wei explained in a low voice, the Tiger Plain is a force in the Eternal Sword region. They have always been robbing people for a living. They recruit disciples everywhere, and their power is getting bigger and bigger. They even dare to challenge the City of Dawn and the Hunters' Union. But in fact, the Tiger Plain force is just a clown. Everyone knows that. What did you say? Someone from the Tiger Plain shouted angrily. I think you are tired of living. Wait a minute. This person was about to attack. Behind him, a person wearing the hunter's badge walked over. He held a broadsword in his hand and smiled calmly. Zhang Wei, it's really you. Zhang Wei squinted his eyes. Long Yu, it's you. This person called Long Yu was not weaker than Zhang Wei. He did not move the broadsword in his hand, but his fighting spirit had already spread. However, he could not see through Lin Muyu's cultivation. His intuition told him that this person did not have any cultivation at all. The only person he had to be wary of was the pretty little girl. So, he did not take Lin Muyu seriously. He said in a low voice, Zhang Wei, didn't you lead your team out to hunt? Why are you suddenly here? And your team has not returned for many days. My team has been destroyed, Zhang Wei said calmly. Long Yu was a little surprised. That can't be. Your team is full of top-notch experts. Who could have destroyed your team? Although Long Yu looked surprised, the flash of ridicule in his eyes did not escape Lin Muyu's eyes. He was obviously taking pleasure in Long Yu's misfortune. Zhang Wei waved his hand angrily. Don't mention it. After my team was destroyed, I did not dare to return to the headquarters. I could only wander outside and make new companions. But you, Long Yu, you are an outstanding hunter in our alliance. Why did you come here to help people rob others? Moreover, your partner is the ferocious Tiger Plain that has repeatedly disrespected the Hunter Alliance. Humans die for wealth, birds die for food. Long Yu smiled faintly. You won't report the news of my cooperation with the ferocious Tiger Plain to the higher-ups, will you? No, it has nothing to do with me. Zhang Wei smiled slightly. But, we are here for the God's Gem in the Devil's Lair. Since we are already here, it is not good for you to stop us outside, right? Sigh, Long Yu waved his hand. You are treating me like an outsider. It is not that I am stopping you, but everything is first come, first served, right? This Devil's Lair was discovered by us first, so we should be the first to search. Moreover, the crypt demons inside are not to be trifled with. The 4 experts of the ferocious Tiger Plain, Heaven, Earth, Unity, and Longevity have already entered. There will be results soon. If you enter at this time, it is unreasonable. Please give me, Long Yu, a little face and wait here for a little longer. You, Zhang Wei was angry, but he was too embarrassed to force his way in. At this time, Lin Muyu smiled mysteriously. Lord Long Yu, if your people cannot subdue the demons in the lair, will it be our turn? Of course. Long Yu raised his eyebrows. But don't worry, young hero. The 4 experts of the ferocious Tiger Plain, Heaven, and Earth will definitely complete their mission. The 4 of them once fought a crypt demon and killed hundreds of them. They have long been famous in the eternal sword domain. Flattening a mere devil's lair will be as easy as stepping on mud. Very well, we shall wait and see. Lin Muyu led Ria to the entrance of the devil's lair. The rest of the ferocious Tiger Plain people and hunters watched them warily, but did not make a move. After all, Long Yu was the real leader. How many people went in? Zhang Wei asked. Long Yu replied, 21 hunters, the 4 experts of the ferocious Tiger Plain, and another 14 experts. That's a total of 39 experts. Put them down. With so many well-trained experts, flattening a mere devil's lair will be a piece of cake. Let's hope so. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. What, you don't think so? We will know soon enough. Lin Muyu pulled Ria back a few steps and signaled Zhang Wei to step back as well. It was not that he was looking down on the 4 expert strength. The 4 experts of the ferocious tiger plane underground were at least at the level of a first-tier lower god, but the presence in the devil's lair made Lin Muyu feel that the 4 experts' days of power were over. That presence was awakening quickly, and it was growing rapidly. It was different from the crypt demon and the queen worm. It was a stronger existence. As expected, screams soon came from underground as if someone had died in battle. Then there was a faint beast-like roar. It was definitely not the voice of the crypt demon. Long Yu's face was a little confused, and he held his sword tighter. Ria was a little nervous and asked, "Master, what's going on down there?" "Massacre, a massacre." Lin Muyu's eyes were cold as she said, "Be careful, they will come out soon. The so-called 4 experts and the hunter are definitely not a match for the monster underground." "Monster?" Ria said, "Is it a demon?" "Maybe, maybe not. I don't know." Lin Muyu smiled bitterly. After all, he had just arrived here. How could he know so much when he was in the eternal sword domain? At that moment, there was a sudden bang. A person was thrown out of the cave. Only half of his body was left, and the lower half had been bitten off. He was already dead. It was a terrifying scene. Long Yu's voice was trembling. Isn't this the longevity expert? It seems that he did not live long." Lin Muyu's eyes were calm. "It's coming out. Be careful." Chapter 12:23. Roar. With a roar, a golden claw tore through the hole, and a man holding a broken spear was dragged out. His body was a bloody mess. From the look in Long Yu's eyes, this man was also one of the 4 masters of eternal life with heaven and earth. Those long golden claws were like the claws of a crab. The cave entrance was completely torn open, and a huge golden body appeared in front of everyone. It had the body of a cave demon, but it was much more tyrannical than a cave demon. Its entire body was enshrouded in seemingly invincible aura, and its back was covered in spikes. Its claws trampled on the ground, and it waved its long pincers to attack randomly. Inside the cave, another 2 people drenched in blood rushed out. One of them shouted, "What are you waiting for? Let's go together and kill this god insect." "God insect?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Leah was also stunned. Her small mouth gaped. "This is the first time I've seen a real god insect. What is a god insect?" Lin Muyu asked. Chang Wei said, "The god insect is a type of demon that specializes in combat. It's very rare. This is also the first time I've seen one. According to the ancient records, the god insect's outer shell is indestructible, the spikes on its back are poisonous, and it has the aura of magic armor to protect it. Ordinary masters are no match for it. Also, usually, only giant demon caves will have god insects guarding them. Underground, there are at least 3 mother insects. Doesn't that mean we're rich?" Lin Muyu could not stop grinning. Chang Wei said, "Madam, should we help?" "No." Lin Muyu shook her head. "Unless they take the initiative to ask for our help, we mustn't interfere. Otherwise, they'll think that we're robbing their devil's lair. You saw how aggressive they were just now. Yes, let them fight. It's best if they all die." "That's right." On the ground, Long Yu and more than 20 others joined the fray. Admittedly, Long Yu could be considered an expert, but unfortunately, the divine insect of war was too strong. Every strike of its pincers was incomparably swift and fierce, accompanied by invisible blades of wind. In the blink of an eye, another dozen or so people lost their lives to the fierce attacks of the divine insect of war, and the so-called 4 great experts of the same age as heaven and earth had all died. The god battle bugs even ate the heads of the heaven-class experts. Bang! Long Yu's saber was heavily struck by the golden pincers. The god war insect's ferocious head seemed to be filled with anger. Its countless legs moved quickly, and another pincer swept out. With a puff, Long Yu was sent flying. The sound of ribs breaking came from his armpit. He was already seriously injured. His protective astral energy couldn't withstand the God War insect's fierce attack. "Master, the big bug is coming for us." Leah panicked. "Don't worry." Lin Muyu gently opened her left palm. Blood-colored lightning surged, quickly strengthening Chang Wei and Leah with the power of the sacred martial. The Xianyuan sword in her right hand shone brightly. She said, "Don't come. Watch me fight." "Leah, watch carefully as I use speed to gain an advantage." "Yes, master." Long Yu, who was lying under a rock not far away, was dumbfounded. The seemingly unremarkable kid was attacking the terrifying God War insect like a god. Moreover, his aura didn't lose to the God War insect at all. In fact, he even crushed it. Clang! The Xianyuan sword hit the God War insect's pincers. As expected, it couldn't cut it. However, Lin Muyu's body spun rapidly in the air, and she used her speed to dodge the insect's second attack. Instead, the Xianyuan sword swept across the insect's abdomen, dragging sparks behind it. When the God War insect shook its back, Lin Muyu suddenly lowered her body and kicked out with her ankle, knocking down nearly 10 of the God War insect's legs on one side and causing it to lose its balance. The moment the God War insect fell, Lin Muyu raised her sword, and the blade seemed to bring out a mountain from the ground and hit the God War insect's vulnerable abdomen. Pang! This was a strike from the 5 mountains falling from the sky. After suffering such a heavy blow, the God War insect was injured, and dark red blood flowed from its abdomen. Lin Muyu wasn't in a hurry to kill it. She took several steps back to avoid the wounded God War insect's desperate struggle. After it swung its giant arm for the last time, Lin Muyu rushed to it like lightning. The blade glowed with the 7 elements' brilliance, and the surrounding space was slightly distorted. Then, a heavy strike of the 5 elements' 8 wastelands' destruction fell. Kacha, the God War insect's entire giant arm was cut off, and it screamed in pain. Lin Muyu retreated again. The most taboo when dealing with such a giant was to kill it with a series of fierce attacks, because no one had the confidence to do so. A God War insect had cultivated for God knows how many years to reach its current level of cultivation, and the vigorous demon qi in its body wasn't inferior to the power of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. Underestimating the enemy would be equivalent to digging one's own grave. Just like that, Lin Muyu retreated again and again, but each attack added new injuries to the God War insect. After 7 or 8 attacks, the God War insect's legs were almost completely removed. Finally, under Lin Muyu's 6 elements heavenly tribulation, the God War insect's ugly head was directly blown up. Pang! Blood exploded everywhere, and the hunters and people of ferocious Tiger Plain who were struggling at death's door on the ground were all stunned. This seemingly inconspicuous young man actually killed a God War insect by himself. How terrifying was he? Even Long Yu couldn't help but tremble all over. He murmured to himself, who is this person, to be able to kill a God War insect by himself? This kind of strength is probably at the level of the leader and Meng Taifeng, right? My God, is the Eternal Sword Domain going to have a new structure? Wait, milord. Zhang Wei said. You can't just throw away the God War insect's body. Can you let me handle it? I can trade it for a mountain of gold and silver. What? According to the ancient books, the flesh of a God War insect can prolong life, and its shell is actually a kind of godly metal. After refining, it can be forged into godly weapons or fine armor. Moreover, according to the ancient books, the God War insect's heart is a gemstone rich in elemental power. It's priceless. How do you know so much about it? Zhang Wei was a little embarrassed. In the past, I once aspired to be a scholar and conquer the entire Eternal Sword Domain with my knowledge. Later, I discovered that it was useless, so I gave up on it and turned to martial arts. Milord, you might not know this, but a god war insect's primary form is a crypt demon. As it grows stronger, its heart begins to mutate and transform into a huge body of energy. That's how it becomes a god war insect. The probability of a crypt demon evolving into a god war insect is 1 in 100 million. We've hit a treasure this time. Alright. Lin Muyu glanced at the corpse of the god war insect and said, "You and Rhea stay outside and deal with the god war insect. I'll go in and look for the primordial stones." Yes. After entering the demon's cave, it was just as Zhang Wei said. There were 7 nests in the demon's cave guarded by the god war insect, and there were also 7 brood mothers laying eggs. After clearing them all, Lin Muyu gained 7 more primordial stones. It felt like she'd found a treasure. When Lin Muyu came out of the demon's cave covered in broodmother's juices, Zhang Wei was laboriously cutting the god war insect's shell, but his blade clearly couldn't cut through it. "Move," Lin Muyu said lightly. Oh, after Zhang Wei dodged, Lin Muyu raised her blade and slashed out with dozens of sword auras in the blink of an eye. The god war insect was dismembered, and its shell was already in pieces. Zhang Wei went to retrieve the shell ecstatically. At this time, the injured Long Yu also walked over, holding the wound under his armpit, and said, "Milord, who are you?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "There seems to be no need for us to know each other, right? And, don't tell me you're going back on your word? We agreed that whoever killed the god war insect would get the demon's cave, and all the spoils of war here today would be ours." Long Yu laughed bitterly. Of course this lowly one knows. We still have to thank Milord for killing the god war insect and saving our lives. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. This lowly one just wants to know, who are you, Milord, to be able to kill a legendary god war insect by yourself? Lin Muyu didn't want to make a name for herself in the Eternal Sword region. She shook her head and said, "Who I am is not important. To the Eternal Sword region, I'm just a passerby. Take your people and leave before I want to kill you." Yes. Long Yu helped another heavily injured hunter up and staggered away step by step. Zhang Wei stood up and raised his eyebrows. "Long Yu, wait. What? When you return to the main altar, don't mention me to anyone, and especially don't mention what you saw here today. Otherwise, not only will you bring trouble to us, but you will also bring disaster to yourself." "I know. Don't worry." Long Yu walked away step by step, and this time, he didn't look back. Lin Muyu gave Zhang Wei a dimensional bag so that he could store the shell and the god war insect's heart gem. The gem was actually a crystallized spiritual power, but it had already solidified and was very difficult to refine. In fact, other than looking good for decoration, it had almost no value. It was an existence similar to a diamond. After packing his things, he continued in the direction of Dawn City. To Lin Muyu, the power of the sword realm might not necessarily be in Dawn City. To her, it was a chance to train in this world and find the opportunity to comprehend the power of the sword realm. Life was a purposeless cultivation. The road was under one's feet, and the wonder was in one's heart. What made Lin Muyu the most happy was that there were a total of 15 light primordial stones in her Qianquan bag. Along the way, she destroyed every demon cave she came across. Not only could she help the people of the Eternal Sword Realm get rid of demons, but she could also collect the precious treasures that the Western Divine Realm needed. Once she left the Eternal Sword Realm, things like light primordial stones were not easy to find. Usually, a realm would only produce one after 100 million years. It was too rare. Eastern Heavenly Realm, Hall of Great Accomplishment. Xiao sat on the Demon Emperor's throne and accepted the worship of the new gods. This time, the new gods were a little special. There were a total of 3. One was the sea god Han Zi, the other was the god of recovery Chu Chu, and the third was actually the demon god, Nu Shi. When Nu Shi walked into the hall with her body enshrouded in demonic qi, everyone was stunned and put their guards up. However, Xiao smiled warmly. Don't be nervous, we're on the same side. Nu Shi is a friend of the martial god Lin Muyu, which means she's a member of our eastern heavenly realm. The identity of a righteous god and a demon god will not change the friendship between us. Nu Shi bowed and murmured, "Thank you, Fairy Xiao." Chu Chu did not pay his respects. He said, "Fairy Xiao, if there's anything you need me, Chu Chu, to do, please let me know. I've been waiting for your arrival for a long time." Xiao stood up and said, "Many of the spirit mountains in the god realm have withered and are just waiting for you, the god of recovery, to awaken them. Let's begin immediately. The recovery of spiritual power will be a sign that the eastern heavenly realm will rise again." Yes, this old man obeys. Chapter 12:24. 3 days later, Lin Muyu and the others followed a caravan into Jianghu Valley. This is Snake Scale Valley. Zhang Wei led the horses he had bought and introduced the place as he walked. "I came here when I was young. Snake Scale Valley is isolated from the outside world because of the towering mountains on both sides. Even demons can't enter. Instead, it has become a peaceful place. More and more people have settled here, forming a tribe in Snake Scale Valley. They have formed an army to fight against external forces. Moreover, there is an expert living in seclusion in Snake Scale Valley." "Oh? Which expert?" Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei rubbed his nose. "The old man of Heavenly South is said to be an expert who has lived in Snake Scale Valley since ancient times. His cultivation is unfathomable, and he lives alone in the deep mountains of Snake Scale Valley. It is said that even experts like Meng Taifeng and Luo Xingji have to give him face. Meng Taifeng once personally invited the old man of Heavenly South to come out, but he was rejected." Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel excited. She asked, "Zhang Wei, do you know where this old man of Heavenly South lives?" "I don't know. I only know that he lives in the mountains and secludes himself from the world." Leah smiled. "Master, why do you want to find this old man of Heavenly South? I heard that he has a strange temper. I haven't seen him for hundreds of years." Lin Muyu nodded. "I came to the Eternal Sword Domain to find a power that can fight against the demon realm. If I don't pay a visit to an expert like the old man of Heavenly South, then there's no point in me coming here. Listen up. We won't stay in the city in the valley. We'll take the mountain road. I want to find the old man of Heavenly South." Leah nodded and smiled. Zhang Wei was a little speechless. "Lord Martial God, you're not thinking of challenging the old man of Heavenly South, are you?" "I'm here to learn from him." Lin Muyu smiled. "It's the only thing I can do." "Then let's go. There aren't many mountains in Snake Scale Valley, and there are even fewer deep mountains. We should be able to find the old man of Heavenly South within a few dozen kilometers." After nightfall, the entire Snake Scale Valley was silent. Looking down from the mountain, the valley was filled with lights and stars. It was an indescribably serene atmosphere. Lin Muyu turned to look at the mountain range in the distance. There seemed to be an expert watching over them from afar. Otherwise, how could there be such a peaceful place like the Snake Scale Valley in a place like the Eternal Sword Domain, where everyone would be eaten without spitting out their bones? At night, the three of them spent the night in the mountains and immediately set off the next morning. At noon, after passing through a few mountains, the mountain range ahead was hidden in the white clouds. From afar, it looked like a wonderland of immortals. Streams gurgled as they flowed down the mountain range. Occasionally, the cries of deer echoed between heaven and earth. This was indeed a good place to live in seclusion. Lin Muyu held the Xianyuan sword and stared into the distance. Suddenly, she felt a force in her spiritual mind, and the other party seemed to sense Lin Muyu's existence. "Found you." Lin Muyu smiled. "Leah, Zhang Wei, I'll go first. You two follow me." "Yes, Master." Jianghu was speechless. With a leap, Lin Muyu was already hundreds of meters away. Her body pierced through the clouds and went straight to a certain place in the valley. As expected, after the clouds dispersed, a rather ancient building appeared in front of them. It was a huge place that looked like a Daoist temple. It was built on the mountain wall, and beside it was a flowing waterfall that looked like a long white chain. In front of the building, there were some men and women cultivating and practicing the bright sword. Judging from their skills, half of them had already entered the divine state. Who's there? Among the disciples, a male disciple with the highest cultivation suddenly looked up into the sky and saw Lin Muyu's figure. He rose from the ground and swung his long sword in the air. He shouted in a low voice, "Those who trespass into the heavenly gate shall die." The sword light was like a rainbow. Lin Muyu could not help but be secretly shocked. It was the bright sword technique. This bright sword technique was a side branch of the sword manipulation technique. It was overbearing and fierce, and could not be underestimated. However, Lin Muyu stood in the air like a mountain. The other party's sword continuously bounced off a few meters away from Lin Muyu. Although this disciple's cultivation was not bad, his strength was obviously much weaker than Lin Muyu's. It was difficult to understand him at all. Eldest senior brother. On the ground, a group of disciples rushed into the sky one after another. Some of them whose cultivation was not enough even flew into the air on their long swords. It was indeed similar to the sword manipulation technique. Who exactly are you? The disciple who was addressed as eldest senior brother asked. Lin Muyu smiled respectfully. I'm not here to kick down the mountain gate. I just want to ask, is the elder of Tiannan here? Do you know master? An extremely beautiful female disciple asked in surprise. No, I don't. Lin Muyu shook her head and said with a smile, I just came because of your reputation. I want to ask senior for some advice. Another male disciple raised his eyebrows and said, Who exactly are you? Do you think our bright sword forest is a place where you can come and go as you please? Tell me quickly, who exactly are you? Are you a spy sent by the City of Dawn or the Hunters' Alliance? Lin Muyu was a little angry. No, you can just report to your master. Don't make things difficult for me here. I don't want to hurt any of you. Arrogant. Eldest senior brother roared angrily. Junior brothers and sisters, set up the sword formation. Immediately, 7 disciples with extraordinary cultivation flew in front of Lin Muyu, forming the position of the Big Dipper. Streams of divine power complemented each other. In the next moment, swords turned into rainbow lights and attacked. The power was endless, growing and multiplying endlessly. Before Lin Muyu even came into contact with the sword formation, she knew that she could not take it head-on. That would only exhaust her power. Therefore, she did not say anything. She suddenly raised her palm, and blood-red lightning surged. Her divine martial power was mixed with the elephant's formless technique. She shouted in a low voice, All of you, get out of my way. I don't want to hurt you. In the sky, a strong gust of wind swept over, bringing with it the power of the surrounding mountains. In an instant, the 7 male and female disciples seemed to be crushed by mountains. All of them paled and fell down. None of them could withstand a single attack from Lin Muyu. As they fell from the sky, they temporarily lost the ability to fly. They were so frightened that they lost their composure. Just as Lin Muyu was about to fly down to rescue them, the mountain gates suddenly opened. A gentle gust of wind gushed out and supported the disciples one by one. In the next moment, an old man dressed in a white robe with the demeanor of an immortal appeared in the mountain gate. There was no anger on his face, nor was there any joy. Master. Thank you, Master, for saving us. The group of disciples knelt down, their expressions extremely respectful. Lin Muyu also floated down with the wind. She sheathed the Xianyuan sword, cupped her fists, and said with a smile, may I ask if you are Elder Tian Nan? The old man smiled slightly. That's me. May I know, why have you come to the Bright Sword Forest? Judging from your appearance, you are definitely not from the Eternal Sword domain. Such an extraordinary cultivation is really rare. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. They had not even exchanged blows, but Elder Tian Nan seemed to have already seen through his strength. He smiled, and said, Senior, I am indeed not from the Eternal Sword domain. I came to the Eternal Sword domain to pursue a power called the Sword domain. That's why I came to the Bright Sword Forest. I hope that Senior can teach me a thing or two. You're looking for the Sword domain? Elder Tian Nan could not help but laugh. He stroked his beard and said, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. In this old man's Bright Sword Forest, there are only me and a group of disciples. There is absolutely no power of the Sword domain. Moreover, this old man has been in the Eternal Sword domain for tens of thousands of years, but I have never known what the Sword domain is. Young hero, please return. There is nothing here that you're looking for. Lin Muyu cupped his fists respectfully. Since I don't know what the power I'm looking for is, I naturally have to pay my respects to Senior. Otherwise, wouldn't I have come here for nothing? I don't care if Senior possesses the power of the Sword domain, but I still feel that I'm shallow and would like to ask Senior for some guidance. A female disciple said somewhat angrily, Why don't you listen to me? Master has already said that there is nothing here that you want. Why aren't you leaving? Elder Tian Nan smiled and said, Ling, don't be rude. This young hero has come from afar and is a guest. Since he's here, let's brew some tea for him. Young hero, please follow this old man. Many thanks, Senior. Lin Muyu strode into the Bright Sword Forest, while the group of disciples looked at him angrily. They all thought that he was an uninvited guest and that he was definitely up to no good by coming here. The Bright Sword Forest was filled with mountain ranges. The plank paths and pavilions were all built in the air. Under Elder Tian Nan's guidance, Lin Muyu entered the depths of the Bright Sword Forest. Not long after, she arrived at the pear altar, only to see that the pear blossoms were in full bloom, as if it was the beginning of spring. It was indeed worthy of the pear altar's reputation. Compared to the barren world outside the Snake Scale Valley, this place was simply like a paradise. Young hero, please sit. Elder Tian Nan sat cross-legged at the stone table beside the pavilion, while Lin Muyu sat opposite him. The female disciple who was still angry earlier brought over a pot of tea and began to brew it. All of you, sit down. Elder Tian Nan gave the order, and immediately, the group of disciples sat down in various parts of the pear altar. Everyone surrounded Elder Tian Nan and Lin Muyu in a circle, as if it was the wonderful scene of 100 schools of thought lecturing in ancient times. When the female disciple served the tea, Elder Tian Nan took a sip and said with a smile, Young hero, where did you come from, and why did you come here? Why don't you tell me? Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled, My name is Lin Muyu, and I was born in the 6 realms outside the Eternal Sword domain. I was originally the divine king of the Eastern Heaven realm, but after the heavenly punishment descended, the gods of the heaven beyond heaven established a new order called the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. Now, I am the martial god of the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. In addition, the devil realm invaded, and tens of millions of Mara went on a rampage. The master of the devil realm, Ziyan, wields the supreme artifact, the god-destroying pagoda. I came here to seek the power of the sword domain in order to deal with the god-destroying pagoda. So many things have happened in the outside world over the years, Elder Tian Nan sighed, Young hero, you are the martial god, forgive me for not recognizing you, that's just a title, I hope you don't mind. Elder Tian Nan said, Since you are so honest with me, I can only be honest with you. In fact, I was exiled to the Eternal Sword domain more than 80,000 years ago. As for my crime, it was to pry into the ultimate power of the bright sword, the proud sword technique. This proud sword technique is the power of the sword domain that you speak of, young hero. However, after I pry into the proud sword technique, I found that although this proud sword technique is peerlessly overbearing, it has lost its righteousness. It is too overbearing, but not benevolent enough. Great disaster? What great disaster? Deceiving the master and destroying the ancestors. Chapter 12:25. Elder Tiannan nodded and said, "My master was mistakenly killed by me when I was at the initial stage of the proud sword technique. After that, we fell out with each other, and after I mistakenly killed my master, I found myself in a situation controlled by the proud sword technique. This powerful proud sword technique actually affected my mind and made me a heinous person. After that, I destroyed the proud sword technique, voluntarily accepted punishment, and was banished to this eternal sword domain." As he spoke, the old man looked at the group of disciples lovingly and said, "In the eternal sword domain, massacres and invasions happen all the time. These children were all taken in by me after they lost their parents. Their parents might have been evil people, but they were not at fault. I taught them martial arts and founded the Bright Sword Forest to find a place to stay in the eternal sword domain." "So that's how it is." Lin Muyu was a little shocked and said, "Then senior, why does the proud sword technique control your mind?" Elder Tiannan smiled faintly and said, "The reason why the proud sword technique is called the proud sword technique is because of the obsession in the heart. The sword is the king of all weapons, and a sword in hand is enough to look down on the world. The state of mind of the proud sword technique pursues an extreme arrogance, extreme strength, extreme madness. Once the cultivation is successful, one can look down on everything and be invincible in the world. Back then, I had already shocked my sect when I cultivated the proud sword technique to 10%. If I had cultivated the proud sword technique to 100%, I'm afraid I would have become the world's biggest disaster." Speaking of this, Elder Tiannan glanced at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Young hero, do you still want to find the power of the sword domain and cultivate the proud sword technique?" "Yes." Lin Muyu's eyes were determined and said, "I believe that all the power in the world can be controlled and mastered. Perhaps you were too eager to pursue power, so you stepped into the wrong direction of the proud sword technique. Since the proud sword technique is the king of swordsmanship, it must have the benevolence and generosity of a king. Senior only cultivated strength, but did not have the heart to cultivate the proud sword technique." "You," Elder Tiannan was stunned, then couldn't help but shake his head and laugh at himself. "The younger generation will surpass the older. I finally understand why you became the new order of the martial god. So, are you willing to teach me the AO sword tactics?" "I can't teach you." Elder Tiannan shook his head and said, "When I destroyed my martial arts, the mental cultivation method of the AO sword tactics had been completely removed from my consciousness. I can't teach you anything about the AO sword tactics." "Then, doesn't that mean, this peerless power has been lost?" Lin Muyu was slightly disappointed. Elder Tiannan smiled, "That's not necessarily true. The AO sword technique is a mental cultivation method that originally existed between heaven and earth. It's almost the same as the laws. I only had a glimpse of the tip of the iceberg of the AO sword technique. As for how to find the AO sword technique, I can give you a way. When I first came to the eternal sword domain, my sword was broken and my cultivation was destroyed. I once carved a small portion of the mental cultivation method of the AO sword technique on the stone wall at the back of the mountain. But after so many years of wind and rain, most of the words are no longer clear. Whether or not you can cultivate it depends on your luck." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She cupped her fists and said, "Thank you, senior. That means, you're willing to let me cultivate in Bright Sword Forest." The elder smiled and said, "A dignified Mahayana heavenly path martial god is cultivating in my Bright Sword Forest. This is the supreme honor of our Bright Sword Forest. Why do you continue to be so polite? It's just that you're a martial god." I don't have the qualifications to teach you anything. So, you can stay in Bright Sword Forest, but you're not a disciple. You're just a guest. What do you think? I'll do as you say. Lin Muyu nodded and said, I'll just follow Senior's instructions. Good. Elder Tian Nan happily said, Disciples, listen up. This young hero Lin Muyu will stay in Bright Sword Forest to cultivate. You need to treat him like a guest. No one is allowed to pick a fight. Otherwise, I'll punish you according to the sect rules. I won't tolerate it. Yes, Master. All the disciples nodded in unison. At this moment, a disciple floated over and said, Master, something bad has happened. Another 2 people have come to crash the sect gates. It's a man and a woman. Their cultivation levels are extremely high. Lin Muyu hurriedly said, They're my people. Just let them come in. Don't make a move. Elder Tian Nan smiled slightly. Young hero, shall we continue to enjoy tea? Okay. After Leah and Chang Wei hurriedly entered the pear jar, they discovered that Lin Muyu was leisurely enjoying tea and discussing Dao. For a moment, their temper was gone. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu instructed the 2 of them to sit down and enjoy tea together. Elder Tian Nan personally brewed tea while looking at Chang Wei. He said, This young hero's hostility is rather strong. It's better for you to relax and remain calm. Chang Wei wished he could smash his tea stall. However, due to Lin Muyu's presence, he respectfully said, Yes, this junior understands. Leah blinked her eyes. Master, do you really want to stay in this Bright Sword Forest to practice? Yes, I came here to find the power of the Sword Realm. Now I finally found it. That is the proud sword tactics. Therefore, I must stay here until the practice of the proud sword tactics is completed. Leah nodded. Master, stay here. Leah will also stay here. Elder Tian Nan said, Young hero, there is one more thing you must bear in mind. Practicing the proud sword tactics will inevitably cause your temperament to change. You will become supercilious and arrogant. Once you really reach that point, remember to stop and no longer practice. Otherwise, you will destroy your future. You, the martial god of the Mahayana heavenly path, may fall into the evil path. That will be a great misfortune for the world. I know. I will try to control it. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. Thank you for reminding me, Senior. After the tea, I will let the disciples take you to the guest room. After that, I will guide you to the cultivation place at the back of the mountain. Okay. The food in Yi Jianlin was not bad. Although it was vegetarian, it was rare to eat the dishes grown in the mountains, which were fresh and elegant. After lunch, the guest room was arranged. Chang Wei stayed in the room to practice on his own. Lin Muyu took Leah to the back of the mountain with Elder Tian Nan. At this moment, a spring rain started to fall from the sky. The 3 of them did not wear any bamboo hats or anything like that, but they used their skills to block the drizzle dozens of centimeters away, so they were not wet. The drizzle filled the mountain with fresh air. After a few ups and downs, the 3 of them arrived at the top of a lonely peak. Looking from afar, there was a very flat mountain wall on the opposite side, which was engraved with faintly visible words. Elder Tian Nan did not look at these words. For him, the mental cultivation method of the proud sword tactics was a curse. Young hero, it's here. The opening chapter of the AO sword tactics is recorded on the mountain wall. Everything I wrote before I destroyed my cultivation is there. How much you can comprehend depends on you. I'll go by myself. Young hero, please help yourself. Thank you, Senior. When Lin Muyu looked up, Elder Tian Nan had already floated away and quickly disappeared in the light curtain of rain. Leah's mind was simple. She sat quietly on a stone and said, Master, you practice the proud sword tactics, and Leah will practice the stellar tactics. Okay. Lin Muyu also sat quietly with her legs crossed, staring at the opposite mountain wall, but she could not distinguish the meaning of those words. She could not even see the complete words. The mountain wall had been through tens of thousands of years and had been seriously deformed. Elder Tiannan was simply making things difficult for himself, but he had no other way. He could only help Lin Muyu to this point. Moreover, Elder Tiannan and Lin Muyu had agreed that once Lin Muyu could not control the killing intent in the proud sword tactics after practicing the proud sword tactics, he must immediately leave the eternal sword domain. Even if he fell into the devil's path, he could not do evil in the eternal sword domain. In the evening, Leah stretched her arms and said, "Master, I am hungry. Let's go down the mountain for dinner and come back tomorrow morning." "Yes, master." The two floated down and walked on the plank road. The drizzle was still falling. "Master, did you understand the proud sword tactics?" "No." "How much did you understand?" "I didn't understand a word." Leah opened her small mouth. "Master, didn't you waste the whole afternoon?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "It's not a waste. I have been looking at those stones, and I always feel that the stones want to tell me something." As Elder Tiannan said, the proud sword tactics is not an ordinary martial arts. It is a kind of power similar to the law. The words can be washed away by the wind and rain, but the law will not disappear because of the wind and rain. "Master, do you want to continue looking at those big stones tomorrow?" "Yes." "Master, you are so boring." "Master, can Leah ask you a question?" "Go ahead." "That old man Tiannan also looks very powerful, and he is the master of the bright sword forest, but Leah knows that master is also very powerful. Right now, I really want to know, between master and old man Tiannan, who is more powerful, can master defeat him?" "Elder Tiannan is a senior, and I am a junior. Of course, I will not fight with him." "So, master is admitting defeat?" "Not necessarily." Leah knows the answer. "Master, you don't have to tell me." Lin Muyu, after a few minutes of peace, Leah said again, "Master, master." "What's the matter?" "Leah has practiced the star's skill to the second level. When will master teach me falling star steps?" "Falling star steps is a martial arts skill to improve body movements." "Master, you don't want to teach me, do you?" "I will teach you if you want to learn, but you learned so fast. Aren't you afraid of being possessed by the devil?" "I don't think so." Leah feels that these martial arts are very orderly in her heart, and they won't conflict with each other. "Master, are you worried that Leah will learn too fast and learn all of your martial arts, and then you don't need me anymore?" Master, you don't have to worry. Even if Leah learns all of your martial arts, I will not leave you. Unless master chases Leah away, Leah will follow you for life." Lin Muyu glanced at this beautiful young girl and could not help but smile. A lifetime is very long. "I know, but Leah has already decided." "Decided what?" "To follow master forever. Master will protect Leah, and Leah will also protect master." Chapter 12:26. In the quiet night of the radiant Saint Hall, the bonfires illuminated the huge pillars in the surroundings, as well as the figures within. Shi Yan sat there with a row of radiant primordial stones laid out in front of her. There were 12 of them in total. She said, "Sheen brought back a total of 12 radiant primordial stones from Lasai. The number is limited, so I can only create 12 old gods. You guys decide. I'll choose the 12 strongest crippled gods to reconstruct their divine power." The people around her were all once well-known figures of the Western divine realm. There was no lack of perfect god emperors among them. "Lord Blazing Angel, please tell us." "We'll definitely obey." "Alright, I'll name them." Shi Yan looked at them quietly and said, Crown Prince Robert of the Radiant clan, Elder Albert of the Ella clan, you are of the Darklight clan, Zay of the Ganges clan, Gina of the Radiant clan, Helena of the Roshan clan, Isabella of the Huji clan. When Xian finished reading the 12 names, the 12 people also stood up. Each of their faces was filled with excitement and gratitude. Xian's reading of their names meant that they were about to break away from the status of a waste god. Even if they became an old god, they could at least obtain eternal life and regain the powerful abilities that they had lost. The 12 of you shall wait for me in the temple tomorrow morning. I'll use the lost paradise to refine and absorb the radiant primordial stones for you. Sleep early tonight and maintain your strength. The absorption process is quite painful. Xian smiled. If you want to obtain power, you have to pay a certain price. Do you understand? Yes, thank you, Lord Blazing Angel. Alright, disperse. Guard your positions and guard against any sneak attacks from Mara's army. Yes. The crowd dispersed one by one. In the blink of an eye, only Xian, Eva, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Li Fei, Terralin, and a few others were left in the hall. They were the real rulers of the Western Divine Realm, the group of people who decided the ups and downs of the Western Divine Realm. Xian seemed a little tired. Previously, when she followed Claude, she had always followed Claude's orders. Now that she had become the master of the Western Divine Realm, she was not used to doing everything herself. Sister Haiyan, are you all right? Qin Yin asked with concern. Xian nodded and smiled. Well, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. At this moment, Xian's heart suddenly moved. She stood there in a daze. What's wrong? Qin Yin was a little surprised. I feel like some kind of power is summoning me. Xian quickly walked out of the hall. In the sky above the spirited mountain, beams of golden light pierced through the clouds, revealing the appearance of the Mahayana Heavenly Tao's heavenly voice scroll. In an instant, half of the spirited mountain was illuminated. Whoosh! A beam of golden light landed on Xian. Then, a huge avatar descended from the sky and entered her body. Immediately, Xian stretched out her arms and accepted the gift from the heavens. The heavenly voice scroll automatically formed the avatar of Goddess Nuwa. She looked extremely beautiful and dignified. She looked at Xian with a peaceful expression and said, Xian, as a blazing angel of the heavenly realm, you are brave and fearless. Now that you have gained the recognition of the heavenly voice scroll, you shall be bestowed with a first-class superior deity avatar. You shall be titled Moon Goddess and wield the heavenly Tao of the Moonlight Heavenly Tao. I will also bestow upon you the power of the cold moon. I hope that you will uphold the heavenly Tao and do your best for the world. Xian knelt on one knee respectfully and raised her head, saying, I will do my best and not let you down. Goddess Nuwa's avatar gradually disappeared. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi walked forward together and said with a smile, Congratulations, Sister Haiyan. Xian also stood up and received the congratulations from Eva, Li Fei, Terralin, and the others. All the old deities were very happy because Xian's Mahayana Heavenly Tao's avatar not only meant that the Western Divine Realm's power had increased, but it also meant that the old deities could once again ascend to godhood. Xian was just a good start. This was the real rise of the Western Divine Realm. How do you feel now? Eva asked. Xian did not speak but just raised her palm gently. She felt an extremely strong force in her palm that she had to release. The moment the power of the cold moon gushed out of her palm, it forced Eva, Terralin, Li Fei, and the others to retreat involuntarily. The vast and awe-inspiring power was really too strong. So this is the divine power of the heavenly law of the Mahayana realm. Xian pursed her red lips and said with a smile, No wonder that Brat Yu is almost invincible under the heavens. He only thinks about fighting all day long and he doesn't even think about leaving his 2 wives in the Western Divine Realm. Qin Yin blushed, Sister Xian, what are you talking about? I asked Exalted Fushi, you has only gone to the eternal sword domain. Tang Xiaoxi also said, that's right, Mu has gone to seek greater power. Shi Yan said with a smile, I've heard of the eternal sword domain. It's a very dangerous place. Aren't the two of you worried that you will meet with misfortune in the eternal sword domain? I am a little worried, but not very worried. Qin Yin's brows relaxed and she said with a smile, I believe in him. If even an Einherjar can't return from the eternal sword domain safely, then who else can conquer it? I'm so envious of the two of you, Shi Yan smiled leisurely. These words came from the bottom of her heart. The unreserved love and trust between Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi was really enviable. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were very relieved that Lin Muyu had gone to the eternal sword domain alone. They knew that Lin Muyu would definitely return. Moreover, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were in the Western Divine Realm. Lin Muyu was also relieved. He knew that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi would definitely be able to protect the Western Divine Realm. If they had not met each other, they would all be powerful rulers. There was no doubt about that. Under the cold moonlight, Shi Yan stood on the tallest mountain near the Radiant Saint Hall with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, protecting the Western Divine Realm just like that. Since ancient times, gods had always been like this, protecting a region in solitude and coldness. They were very different from the Xiaoyao that the poet spoke of. Eternal sword domain, bright sword forest. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Leah had been unhappy the entire time, as it seemed like her master's cultivation had not progressed at all. This was not a good thing. If she wasted too much time in Bright Sword Forest, Lin Muyu would face greater and greater danger. After all, news had already begun to spread in the outside world. The person who had slain a god of war insect alone had appeared in the Eternal Sword Domain. The most taboo thing for people in the Eternal Sword Domain was to be in the limelight. Unless it was a grandmaster like Meng Taifeng or Luo Xingji, it was very easy to become the target of public criticism. Fortunately, Snake Scale Valley was very secretive, and Bright Sword Forest was located in the depths of the mountains. Outsiders might not be able to find this place. Otherwise, trouble would have come within 3 days. In the evening, the setting sun shone on the stone wall. Lin Muyu sat there quietly, staring at the stone wall. Suddenly, she smiled. "What's wrong, master?" Leah looked worried. "Even if you can't practice the proud sword technique, you don't have to give up. You still have Leah. We can practice other techniques." "Master, are you really okay?" Lin Muyu suddenly stood up and smiled. "Silly girl, what are you thinking about? I have already seen through the essence of the proud sword technique." Leah was stunned. She pointed at the stone wall and said, But there's nothing there. I can't see those words." "If Leah can't see them, how can Master see them? To see the words at the beginning of the proud sword technique, you can't rely on your eyes, but on your heart." Lin Muyu said quietly, "For the past 3 days, I have been feeling the mental cultivation method of the proud sword technique reflected in the depths of the stone wall." When Senior Tiannan wrote this mental cultivation method, he had already reflected the mystery of the proud sword technique into the stone wall. It has not disappeared for thousands of years. What I see is not the words, but the essence of the mental cultivation method at the beginning of the proud sword technique. Do you understand? Leah shook her head. "I don't understand. It's too profound." "It doesn't matter. You will understand in the future." "So now." Leah bit her red lips and said, "What do you do now?" "Start practicing immediately." Practice? Practice what?" "Proud sword technique." "No, what's the use of practicing it?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Let's go. It's almost time for dinner. Go and eat with Master. You are growing now, so you should eat more." As she said, Lin Muyu glanced at Leah's chest. Leah suddenly blushed. Master, do you dislike Leah's flat chest? I don't dislike it. The beautiful faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in Lin Muyu's mind. Both of his wives had shockingly good figures, the kind with S-shaped bodies. Now that he had taken in a female disciple, she was indeed rather flat, the kind that did not even reach a dash. However, Lin Muyu did not mind. He was taking in a disciple, not a concubine. What was the point of asking so much? But Leah seemed to be unhappy and very upset. So Lin Muyu touched her head and said, Leah, the direction of your practice is speed, so the lighter the body, the better. It's not the key whether your chest is big or not. A flat chest can improve your speed. Let me tell you a story. Oh, go ahead, master. In my hometown, there is a race called the Amazon. The Amazon girls are naturally good at archery. In order to practice extraordinary archery skills, they will choose to cut off the left side of their chest that hinders drawing the bow. This is because too much of their chest will hinder the speed and strength of drawing the bow. Think about it, these powerful female warriors will even give up their breasts to gain strength. Your flat chest is nothing. Leah was confused. Master, do you mean that I should cut off my chest too? No, it must be very painful. Lin Muyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that your flat chest might not be a bad thing. Don't take it to heart. Sigh, why are we talking about this? Let's go and eat. I'm already hungry. Okay. Leah obediently held her master's hand and quickly went down the mountain. Behind them was the misty precipice behind the bright sword forest. Chapter 12:27. The cafeteria of Bright Sword Forest was very big. The disciples in charge of the food had already prepared the food. The food on every table was exactly the same, so they could sit at will when eating. There were 4 people at a table, 4 dishes and 1 soup. There was no meat, it was all vegetarian. When Lin Muyu came in with Leah, there was only 1 empty table, and there were already 2 people sitting at it. They were eldest senior brother Shi Han and eldest senior sister Ru Yan. Both of them already knew Lin Muyu when Lin Muyu entered the mountain to break the sword formation. Leah, let's sit here. Okay, master. Lin Muyu sat down, picked up the chopsticks, and said with a smile, Shi Han, Ru Yan, do you mind eating together? I don't mind, please help yourself. Shi Han smiled and said, Master Martial God, I wonder if you have gained anything after entering the back mountain for so many days? Not yet. Ru Yan smiled, it seems that the AO sword tactics left by Master is still too profound. Even a martial god with such cultivation can't comprehend it. The martial god of Mahayana heavenly path, actually can't comprehend Master's AO sword tactics. It's really unexpected. Leah said indignantly, you. What nonsense are you talking about? How can Master not comprehend a mere AO sword tactics? Leah. Lin Muyu's voice became a little more serious, and she said, eat. Yes, Master. Leah glanced at her with a wronged expression. Obviously, Shi Han and Ru Yan did not have a good impression of Lin Muyu. After all, the 2 of them were the strongest in Bright Sword Forest apart from their master, Elder Tian Nan. However, on the first day that Lin Muyu came, she made a fool of them. The sword formation of 7 people was broken by Lin Muyu in 1 move. This was a great humiliation for them, and they lost face in front of their peers. Lin Muyu was just eating, and soon, she had finished 3 bowls of rice. Leah was secretly surprised. Lin Muyu had obviously meditated for a whole day, so how did she consume so much energy? In fact, Leah didn't know that Lin Muyu's meditation was tantamount to an inner battle. The AO sword tactics continued to penetrate into her heart, and the arrogant and cruel power also poured in. Lin Muyu was always on the defensive and didn't use the righteousness deep in her heart to dispel these evil thoughts. As Elder of Tiannan said, practicing the AO sword tactics was a risk in itself. Ria asked again, Master, do you have evening lessons tonight? No, as usual. Let's go to the pair altar to admire the moon and play chess. All right. Hearing this, Shirhan couldn't help but smile and said, Martial God, with all due respect, are you really cultivating the AO sword tactics? I see that you guys are so romantic every day, as if you are enjoying this otherworldly life in our bright sword forest. Lin Muyu smiled and said, That's right, I really enjoy my current life, but I am indeed cultivating the AO sword tactics. The AO sword tactics is so profound that with your cultivation, you may not be able to comprehend it even after 10,000 years. Why do you need to say so much and embarrass yourself? You. Shirhan was furious and was about to explode. Ru Yen hurriedly said, Eldest senior brother. He is Master's honored guest. We can't afford to offend him, but we can still hide from him. Let's go to the evening lessons. Humph. Shirhan flicked her sleeves and left. Ria blinked her eyes and said, Master, the disciples of the Bright Sword Forest are really arrogant. Why don't you teach them a lesson? Shirhan is such a despicable person. He is so jealous that he should be beaten up. If Master is too embarrassed to do it, Ria will help you teach him a lesson. How about it? Even if Shirhan and Ru Yen join hands, I may not lose to them. Lin Muyu smiled slightly, see, you also said that you may not lose to them. It's better for you to cultivate in peace. When you feel that you can definitely beat the two of them together, then come back to me and give me a suggestion. Yes. Ria was smart. She nodded and said with a smile, Thank you, Master, for your advice. I didn't advise you. I'm just speaking the truth. When it comes to fighting, you must only fight when you are sure that you will win. Otherwise, it won't look good if you lose. Yes, pear altar. The night breeze blew, bringing with it the faint fragrance of pear blossoms and peach blossoms in the distance. Pear altar was the most beautiful place in the entire bright sword forest. There were people here all the time. There were disciples of the bright sword forest here for evening lessons and cultivation. There were also Lin Muyu bringing Ria here to drink tea and admire the moon. Elder Tiannan had already disappeared for 3 days. It was said that he was cultivating in seclusion in his own secret room. The matters of the outside world were all decided by Shirhan. Lin Muyu sat at the stone table and personally brewed tea. Ria, on the other hand, was concentrating on cultivating the stellar arts. The bright moonlight in the sky was absorbed into her palm and turned into wisps of cold air in the blink of an eye. This was the power of the 5th level of the stellar arts, Jade Snowfrost. This made Lin Muyu feel extremely surprised. In less than 10 days, Ria had actually cultivated to the 5th level. This talent was too strong, far surpassing Situ Sun, Wei Chou, and the others. For a moment, Lin Muyu realized that she had picked up a treasure. In time, Ria's cultivation would not be ignored. While she was cultivating, there was suddenly a clamor outside. Immediately after, a disciple of the Bright Sword Forest staggered in with half of his body covered in blood. Eldest senior brother, it's bad. What's going on? Shirhan was shocked. Every day was exactly the same. He brought Ria back and forth between the back of the mountain and the guest room, completely ignoring the affairs of the Bright Sword Forest. However, he also knew that the attitude of the disciples of the Bright Sword Forest towards him was getting worse. On the morning of the 8th day, Elder Tiannan came out of seclusion. It was still drizzling in the back of the mountain. Lin Muyu sat there quietly, and Ria guarded by her side. Rustle, rustle, faint footsteps came from behind. Without looking back, Lin Muyu said softly, Senior, you are here? Elder Tiannan smiled slightly. Martial God, it seems that you have seen through the secret of the AO sword tactics and have achieved a little success. How do you feel? Can you restrain the hostility in your heart? Currently, I can. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The cultivation of the martial God is indeed above me. Senior, I have already understood the mental cultivation of the AO sword tactics. I will soon leave the bright sword forest, so as not to bring you trouble. How could that be? Did my disciples say something? Elder Tiannan took a deep breath and said, I have spoiled them. Martial God, please don't be calculative with these children. No, it's just that it is indeed time for me to leave. Otherwise, I will bring unexpected trouble to the bright sword forest. Martial God, are you talking about the Hunter Alliance? Yes. Senior, do you have the confidence to defeat Luo Xingji? No. So I should leave. I'm afraid it's too late. Elder Tiannan smiled slightly. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. She also sensed that a strong aura was approaching the bright sword forest. She stood up and said with a smile, Senior, let's go and take a look together. Yes. The loud sound of the waterfall reverberated in the surroundings. Close to 100 disciples were sparring in the square outside the bright sword forest. At that moment, figures flew over from afar, all of them wearing the insignia of the Hunter Alliance. Meet the enemy. Shi Han roared, his face full of anxiety. It was obvious that there were more opponents this time. At least 100 hunters had appeared outside the gates of the bright sword forest, and there was no lack of experts among them. Rustle, rustle, a few figures appeared above the outer hall. It was Elder Tiannan, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei, and Leah. Outside the hall, in front of a group of hunters, an expert holding an azure broadsword grinned hideously and said, Alliance leader is benevolent, but 3 days ago, you innocently slaughtered our brothers from the Hunters Alliance. I think it's time to flatten your bullsh** T bright sword forest. Behind him, more and more people came. Soon, more than 1,000 hunters appeared, all of them in the divine state. Shi Han, Ru Yen, the disciples of the bright sword forest were almost scared out of their wits. They had never seen such a scene. Elder Tiannan squinted his eyes and said with a smile, this person is called Sun Xingmiao. He is ranked 5th among the 7 guardian deities under Luo Xingji. He has killed countless people and brought so many people with him. No wonder he dares to threaten to destroy the bright sword forest. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. She put her right index and middle fingers together. Suddenly, there was a sharp whistle on her fingertips, and a golden light swirled. She said, Senior, how about letting me try the power of the proud sword tactics? Go, martial God. However, before Elder Tiannan finished speaking, Shi Han and Ru Yen had already joined forces and rushed forward. You're courting death. Sun Xingmiao roared and swept his broadsword. Immediately, there were 2 puff, puff sounds. Shi Han and Ru Yen vomited blood and retreated. They were already seriously injured. The gap was too big. Chapter 12:28. Master. Shi Han raised her head to look at Elder Tiannan. However, it was Lin Muyu who appeared in the sky. He flew straight ahead and stood between Sun Xingmiao, the injured Shi Han, and Ru Yen. He said, Why aren't you taking your eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister away? Several bright sword forest disciples hurriedly helped Shi Han and Ru Yen up. However, the 2 of them were unwilling to leave and continued to stand guard in front of the mountain gate. Who are you? Are you trying to meddle in other people's business? Sun Xingmiao waved his saber and smiled. I don't kill nameless ghosts. Tell me, what's your name? Lin Muyu. Oh. Sun Xingmiao's body trembled slightly. You. Could you be that Lin Muyu who killed the divine bug of war all by himself? It seems like I did it. Lin Muyu's expression was calm. You killed my hunters and stole my god's gem. Do you admit to this? No. Your hunters were killed by the divine bug of war because they weren't strong enough, and I happened to save their lives. Why? Do you want to put the blame on me? Humph, do you think I'll believe your one-sided story? Sun Xingmiao narrowed his eyes and laughed wildly. You can't be thinking that you're the only one in the entire eternal sword domain who can kill divine bugs, right? Come. Today, I'll let you know that there's always someone better than you. Before he finished speaking, Sun Xingmiao had already made his move. His saber swept toward Lin Muyu with bolts of furious lightning. The momentum of this saber was shocking. If Lin Muyu couldn't handle it, the entire mountain gate would definitely be razed to the ground by Sun Xingmiao. However, Lin Muyu stood in the air with a faint sacred martial power around her. She carried the Xianyuan sword behind her back and didn't even unsheath it. She merely raised the tip of her finger. Suddenly, heaven and earth lost color, and the entire space seemed to freeze. Buzz! Everyone was dumbfounded as they stood rooted to the ground. That was a different kind of power. The momentum in the air changed drastically. Lin Muyu's fingertip transformed into the image of a giant sword, piercing straight through Sun Xingmiao's thunder blade, forcibly cutting open the power of his domain. With a loud bang, Sun Xingmiao's body drifted back like a leaf in the wind. He felt as if his entire body was being sliced by thousands of swords. Even his shoulder armor and chest armor had evaporated and melted. Lin Muyu's light finger didn't seem like an attack that a god should have. It was as if the hottest power in the universe had been turned into a sharp sword, making it impossible for anyone to block it. In any case, Sun Xingmiao was one of the top figures in the Hunters' Alliance, yet he was defeated in one move. The group of hunters turned pale as well. They had never seen Sun Xingmiao lose so miserably before. The lightning blade sharpness and lightning blade technique were so powerful that few in the entire eternal sword domain could match up to him. But now, he had been defeated in a single move. Bastard! Sun Xingmiao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and raised his head to look at Lin Muyu with hatred. He said, I don't believe you. Who are you to be able to cultivate such a sword technique? Lin Muyu naturally used the proud sword technique, but she smiled without saying anything. After a few seconds, she said, take your people and leave Bright Sword Forest immediately. Don't ever come back, or you will lose even more badly. Get lost now, while I don't want to kill anyone. Bullsh *T. Sun Xingmiao stood up majestically and said, why would the Hunters' Alliance fear a mere Bright Sword Forest like you? Brothers, let's attack together and kill this Lin Muyu. The crowd roared and drew their swords. Then, under Sun Xingmiao's lead, they leaped into the air and attacked like a swarm of locusts. They're here. Sword formation. The injured Shi Han shouted loudly, but Lin Muyu, who was in the air, only glanced at them and said nothing. Clang! In the piercingly cold light, the Xianyuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu pointed the blade forward and shouted in a low voice. The power of the holy martial arts poured into his body. For a moment, there was the sound of metal and stone colliding in the air. Behind him, countless bright giant swords appeared. These giant swords were of different shapes, as if they had been summoned from an ancient domain. According to Lin Muyu's will, they suddenly raged. Swish, 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 for a moment, the sky was filled with swords. The proud sword technique was indeed the ancestor of the sword Dao. Blood splashed everywhere in the air, and the attacking hunters were all torn apart by the sword chi of the proud sword technique. It was a tragic sight. They thought that they would not be killed, but they did not expect Lin Muyu to be so ruthless. The second move was already a killing move. Puff! The sword chi pierced through Sun Xingmiao's heart. This renowned expert in the eternal sword domain had died just like that. Close to 600 hunters had also died along with him. In just a short moment, all of them had perished in front of the Bright Sword Forest's mountain gate. In the air, corpses kept falling to the ground. Many corpses fell directly off the cliff, and there was a rain of blood in the air. Oh my God, the beautiful eyes of Ru Yen, the eldest senior sister of the Bright Sword Forest, were full of astonishment. How could he be so strong? Could it be that this is the proud sword technique that Master once mentioned? He managed to cultivate the proud sword technique in less than 10 days. Who the hell is he? Shi Han's gaze was indifferent. Martial God Lin Muyu, this is the martial god of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. He is too strong. I'm afraid he is already stronger than all the previous gods. The disciples of the Bright Sword Forest were all dumbfounded. They had originally thought that it would be a catastrophe, but now, it had turned into a massacre. However, no one had expected that Lin Muyu would act so cleanly. She killed without hesitation and didn't leave any leeway. In the outer hall, Elder Tian Nan stroked his beard and remained silent. With her back facing Elder Tian Nan, Lin Muyu looked sharply at the few hunters left at the edge of the cliff and said, "Go back and tell your alliance leader that the killer is Lin Muyu and it has nothing to do with others. If you want revenge, look for me." Yes. Yes. The hunters kept quiet out of fear. Why aren't you getting lost? Yes, exalted goddess, we'll get lost, everyone fled. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and sheathed the Xianyuan sword. She turned around and flew to Elder Tian Nan, saying, "Senior, the proud sword technique is indeed very domineering. Its power has greatly exceeded my expectations. I only wanted to kill 100 people, but I didn't expect the proud sword technique to be so powerful that I killed hundreds of people. I've sinned. Elder Tian Nan smiled and said, "I heard that the Mahayana heavenly Tao is benevolent and compassionate. Young hero, you killed so many people in one go. Isn't this going against the Mahayana heavenly Tao?" Lin Muyu smiled and replied smoothly, "Senior, you may not know this, but I cultivate the way of killing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have obtained the title of martial god. The martial god's innate mission is to kill and be invincible. The Hunters League has been running amok in the eternal sword domain for a long time. If we don't teach them a lesson with blood, will they stop?" "I see." Elder Tian Nan said, "What if this group of executioners doesn't stop? Then I can only enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and kill them all." "Enforce justice on behalf of the heavens." Elder Tian Nan smiled and said, "I'm afraid that only you, the martial god, has the ability to say such words in this world. Let's go to the pair altar. I want to recite a scripture to wash away the manic killing intent in your heart." Leah, who was at the side, raised her eyebrows and said, "Master can control it himself. There's no need for you to meddle." Obviously, Leah was very dissatisfied with Elder Tian Nan's tone. After all, Lin Muyu's strength was already above Elder Tian Nan's, but he still acted like an elder. On the other hand, Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Leah, don't be rude. Senior, please. I really need to calm down and suppress the manic killing intent in my heart. The agitation brought about by the proud sword technique is too strong. Yes, I know that feeling very well." Elder Tian Nan glanced at the group of disciples and said, "The martial god and I will go to the pair altar to cultivate. You guys clean up the courtyard and clean up the corpses of the hunters. Return peace to our bright sword forest." "Yes, master." In the pair altar, a few people were sitting quietly. Elder Tian Nan was reciting the Heart Sutra. Although Lin Muyu had never heard of it, he felt a sense of tranquility from the scripture. He closed his eyes and, indeed, the manic killing intent in his heart gradually calmed down. Originally, he had planned to kill his way to the headquarters of the Hunters Alliance and kill to his heart's content. Now, he no longer thought about it. He just wanted to sit quietly in the prayer altar. After an unknown period of time, Leah, who was beside him, closed her eyes and cultivated the star technique. She was surrounded by starlight. When Lin Muyu opened his eyes, Elder Tian Nan seemed to be able to sense it. He also opened his eyes and said with a smile, "Young hero, how do you feel now?" "Tranquility, indescribable tranquility." "That's good. Young hero's self-control is far better than mine in the past." "Senior, you flatter me." "Young hero, I have something to ask you." "Senior, please ask." "How long do you plan to stay in the Bright Sword Forest?" "Senior, do you plan to let me go?" Lin Muyu was a little surprised. Elder Tian Nan smiled and said, "Why, don't you want to leave?" "No." "Why?" "Cultivating in the Bright Sword Forest for a day is better than cultivating outside for 10 days. Lin Muyu explained. "Why?" "Here, I can feel peace and tranquility. Furthermore, I have 2 reasons why I can't leave." "Young hero, please speak." "Firstly, a few hundred people from the Hunters' Alliance died this time. They will definitely not let this matter rest. Very soon, there will be stronger people coming to find me. I was the one who started this feud, so I can't just leave. Secondly, I feel that my AO sword technique has not reached its essence yet. Currently, I have only grasped 10% of the AO sword technique. It is enough to kill people, but it is still lacking when it comes to fighting against the gods destroying tower. I can feel that my strength is insufficient, so I can't leave yet. Since that is the case, young hero, you can stay for as long as you want. However, I'm afraid that my disciples will make things difficult for you." "It's alright, I won't argue with them." Young hero's state of mind is much stronger than mine." "Oh?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile, "Senior, why do you say so?" Elder Tian Nan stroked his beard and said with a smile, "When I was your age, if someone was disrespectful to me, I would definitely beat him up." Ha ha ha. Chapter 1229. Another 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. On the cliff of the back mountain, Lin Muyu sat quietly for another 5 days. In the drizzle, Leah squinted her beautiful eyes and asked, "Master, have you made any progress these days?" "No." "Then it's a waste of time, how could it be?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly and continued to sit on the rock. With a light wave of her finger, it was as if an invisible giant sword had sliced through the sky. Even the dense layers of clouds were sliced open. "Wow, it's amazing." Leah opened her mouth wide, "Master, I want to learn too." "What kind of martial arts is that?" "Sword intent." Lin Muyu explained concisely, AO sword tactics is about sword intent. Those who really understand sword intent are able to control everything like a sword, including airflow and clouds. Then, Master's sword intent is very powerful now? It can only be regarded as a beginner. Lin Muyu shook her head and smiled. "To be honest, I felt that I had mastered 1/10 of the AO sword tactics in the first 3 days, but after 12 days of practice, I felt that I had only mastered less than 1%. The AO sword tactics is so profound that I may not be able to fully master it in my life. Master could defeat those bad guys from the Hunters League if he learned 1% of it. If he mastered it completely, wouldn't he be able to destroy a mountain with a flick of his finger?" Lin Muyu chuckled. "Leah, do you think destroying a mountain is powerful?" Then what is powerful?" Lin Muyu nodded and looked at the tender leaves between the rocks and said, "It's easy to destroy the world, but to protect everything under the power of destruction is the real powerful martial arts. The AO sword tactics is very overbearing. The beginning is all about killing, but in the middle part, it all becomes the power of protection. The strongest power protects everything, slays demons, and wins every battle. This is the true meaning of the AO sword tactics." Leah giggled. "Master, Leah understands." In fact, the elder of Tiannan's cultivation of the AO sword tactics went astray because he didn't understand the true meaning of the AO sword tactics, right? Shoo, don't speak so loudly, or Senior will regret it to death. Oh, Leah understands. In the evening, he brought Rhea to the canteen. The moment he entered, the two disciples bowed respectfully. Exalted Immortal, your meal is ready. Lin Muyu was surprised that there seemed to be more dishes on the table not far away. Ever since the battle at the mountain gate, the disciples' attitude towards Lin Muyu had changed a lot, and they were especially respectful towards her. Perhaps the bright sword forest was the same as the human world, where the strong were respected. Only when you were strong enough would you be respected by others. Although this kind of respect was somewhat unsatisfactory, it was much better than being mocked and ridiculed by the other disciples. Lin Muyu nodded happily and brought Leah to eat. When Lin Muyu sat down, Ru Yen and Shi Han also came and sat on both sides of her. Ru Yen looked a little uneasy and whispered, "Exalted Immortal, please don't worry about what happened not long ago. It was us brothers and sisters who were too narrow-minded. It's okay, I've already forgotten. Why do you need to take it to heart?" Lin Muyu took a bun and said, "The Hunter Alliance may come again at any time. At that time, I'm afraid we'll have to fight side by side. We're on the same side, so there's no need to take it to heart. Thank you for your magnanimity, Exalted Immortal." Ru Yen smiled and secretly took something wrapped in oil paper from a disciple at the side. After opening it, there was a burst of fragrance. It was a roasted chicken. She smiled and said, "Exalted Immortal, the mountain gate of the bright sword forest is cold, and they only have vegetarian food. Senior brother and I asked someone to buy this from the Snake Scale Valley to improve your diet. Try it?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "Is there a rule in the bright sword forest that we can't eat meat?" "Yes, but there's no written rule that we can't eat meat. It's just that everyone abides by the rules." "Then let's eat together. Just give me a chicken wing." As she spoke, Lin Muyu plucked off a chicken leg and placed it on Leah's plate, which made the little girl overjoyed. The resources in the eternal sword domain were scarce, and eating meat was already an extravagant hope, let alone a treasure like roasted chicken. After the meal, everyone returned to their rooms, and Lin Muyu continued to meditate and cultivate. After an unknown amount of time, her spiritual perception suddenly jumped. Immediately after, an image flashed in her mind, and she seemed to see a person. A man dressed in black with a mask on his face said to Lin Muyu in a low voice, "What, you don't dare to come?" Lin Muyu's spiritual perception jumped again. There was indeed someone invading her EC. The eternal sword domain was indeed a place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There was actually such an expert. Almost without thinking, Lin Muyu disappeared from where she was. She had already shattered the void and was 10 miles away. Woo woo woo, a cold wind blew. Although this place was still part of the Snake Scale Valley, it was now a desolate mountain range. Right in front of Lin Muyu, a person holding a black sword stopped in the air. It was the person that her spiritual perception had sensed. He had a burly figure and wore a mask. He smiled and said, "You're the Lin Muyu who killed Sun Xingmiao with one strike in the bright sword forest." "Yes, who are you?" Lin Muyu was fearless. "Ha ha ha." The person threw his head back and laughed wildly. He said, "Who I am is not important. What's important is whether you're willing to accept my challenge." "Challenge?" Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. She said, "You want to use my name to climb up? I'm afraid you found the wrong person. Since you want to use me to climb up, why don't you tell me your name?" "What a joke. I didn't come to challenge you for fame. I just want to defeat you." As he spoke, he slowly unsheathed his long sword. It was a treasured sword with a blade that was as sharp as the moon. The moment the blade was unsheathed, its sharp light turned into many fine wind blades that swept out in all directions. Wherever the wind blades passed, rocks shattered and trees snapped. This person was not an ordinary expert. Even an expert like Sun Xingmiao could not be compared to him. Lin Muyu could not help but frown. What kind of power is this? The eternal sword domain, the supreme realm of sword intent. Of course, I named it myself. I've sealed this power for 50 years and have not used it. Now that I've met an expert like you, it's finally worth me using it for real. He smiled proudly. Why? Are you afraid? Lin Muyu smiled. Interesting. It seems that you're the person I've been looking for. What do you mean? I came to the Eternal Sword Domain to find the power of the Eternal Sword Domain. Isn't your power exactly what I'm looking for? Ha ha ha, let's fight. Without another word, the black longsword was raised and the swordwill was unleashed. Before the blade even landed, the ground had already begun to crack. Wherever the swordwill went, the mountains beneath Lin Muyu crumbled, forming a huge canyon. Just as Ria had said, the swordwill of this person before her had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. He was a strong opponent. This was the strongest person Lin Muyu had met after becoming a titled martial god. Buzz. He raised his finger and activated the proud sword technique. A ray of golden light shot up into the sky. It was also a sword intent, but the proud sword technique seemed more calm. It collided with the opponent's long sword. Bang! There was a strong wind, and both of them retreated dozens of meters. The first confrontation was considered a draw. Clang! The Xianyuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu held the sword and lowered her arm. The blade also hung low, but the awe-inspiring sword intent had already raged around her. In the blink of an eye, it was as if thousands of golden Xianyuan swords were dancing around Lin Muyu. Her opponent was not afraid either. He raised his black sword straight, and the surrounding black sword intent surged like a tornado. When experts fought, there were no more moves. There was only the collision and suppression of sword intent. Swoosh, 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 between heaven and earth, streams of sword chi raged. Both Lin Muyu and her opponent were surrounded by a huge sphere. The sword chi rampaged, and wisps of sword intent power collided and exploded in the middle. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The impact seemed to destroy heaven and earth. In the strong wind, Lin Muyu's short hair danced. She looked at her opponent with clear eyes. She activated the power of holy martial arts and the proud sword technique, and constantly launched a series of attacks to attack her opponent. Her opponent did not give in at all. He released the power of the eternal sword realm. Streams of black sword intent raged everywhere. In the blink of an eye, the air was filled with the sharp sound of the collision of sword intent. The surrounding heaven and earth also lost color because of the battle between the two. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Lin Muyu's attacks were like continuous waves, wave after wave. However, her opponent's skills were extremely profound. The sword intent seemed to be endless, which made Lin Muyu feel a little weak. This person was extremely strong. Under the double attack of the power of holy martial arts and the proud sword technique, he did not show any signs of defeat. After attacking for an unknown period of time, the other party suddenly withdrew his aura and said, "Enough." "What, you don't want to fight?" Lin Muyu stopped using the proud sword technique and asked in surprise. Her opponent's expression couldn't be seen clearly under the mask, but he was obviously smiling. "This is the eternal sword realm. My sword intent originates from under this blue wave's great land. You are a genius. I don't want you to die here. So, you continue to cultivate. I will come to find you again until the day you can defeat me. Then, what is your purpose in challenging me?" Lin Muyu asked. "To become stronger." He smiled and said, "I have already seen your flaw. Although your eternal sword realm is strong, its weakness is also very obvious. That is, you are benevolent. You are not willing to kill with every move. Your benevolence will become your biggest weakness. Next time, you may not be so lucky. Remember, once you reveal a flaw, I will kill you without mercy. Lin Muyu smiled. I will continue to show mercy because you can't beat me. You can't kill me, but I don't want to kill you. Her opponent didn't speak, but the black sword intent lingering around his arm became more and more intense. What, are you angry? Lin Muyu asked. Her opponent still didn't speak. He just quietly withdrew from the battlefield and disappeared. Boom! The ground exploded, and a wave of power crashed into the ground from where he was standing. Sure enough, she was angry. Chapter 1230. Lin Muyu looked at the gradually disappearing figure of her opponent from afar with a calm gaze. She lowered her head and looked at her palms. Wisps of steam were rising from them. The battle just now had been so intense that she had forgotten about the pain. This person's eternal sword realm was not just ordinarily powerful. It was even more powerful than the AO sword technique. However, if they were to really fight, even if Lin Muyu did not have the confidence to win, she was at least confident that she would not lose. At this moment, a ray of blue light bloomed behind her. Someone had come. His aura was calm and composed. It was Elder Tian Nan. Senior, you're here. Lin Muyu smiled. Elder Tian Nan's gaze swept across the ground. Looking at the mess left by the battle, he frowned and said, such profound power is enough to destroy the world. Young hero, who did you fight with just now? A man in black with a mask. He said that the martial arts he used was the eternal sword realm. It was very overbearing and fierce. Does Senior know of such a person? There is one. Elder Tian Nan took a deep look at the north and said, the Lord of the City of Dawn, Meng Taifeng, is also recognized as the strongest in the eternal sword realm. Meng Taifeng spent more than half of the past 100 years cultivating in seclusion. No one knew what he was cultivating. It seems that he was cultivating the power of the eternal sword realm that you are pursuing. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. The power of the eternal sword realm that I am pursuing is definitely not his eternal sword realm. Oh? Elder Tian Nan was stunned. What do you mean? Lin Muyu smiled indifferently. Senior, the eternal sword realm is overbearing and fierce. When attacking, there is no room for leeway. This is definitely not the true way of the king. On the contrary, the AO sword technique is both offensive and defensive. It has the imposing manner of a king. Therefore, I believe that the power that I am pursuing is the AO sword technique, not the eternal sword realm. Elder Tian Nan smiled. So, young hero has already broken through the first level of the AO sword technique. Otherwise, it would be difficult to comprehend it. I congratulate you. I should be the one thanking you, Senior. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, my AO sword technique is still very immature, and I also want to spar with this Meng Taifeng again, so I need to continue to stay in the bright sword forest and disturb you. I hope you don't mind. It's an honor for a martial god to stay in my bright sword forest to cultivate. Don't stand on ceremony. Yes. At this moment, two more figures appeared behind him. It was Ria and Zhang Wei. Master, Master. Leah rushed forward and grabbed Lin Muyu's hand. She asked worriedly, Master, are you all right? Don't worry, Leah. Who is Master fighting with here? Ria looked at the man-made canyon below and could not help but feel a chill in her heart. Lin Muyu said, Meng Taifeng. The guard was shocked. The martial god has already fought with Meng Taifeng? Yes. What's the outcome? This was the thing that the guard was most concerned about. After all, he had betrayed the Hunters' alliance and was destined to be hunted. If Lin Muyu defeated Meng Taifeng, it meant that she could also defeat Luo Xingji. In this case, he would be in a safe situation. Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Currently, it can only be a draw. However, if I am given more time to cultivate, I believe I can win." The guard was overjoyed. That's great. Ria said, "Master, your aura is weak. Let's go back to the Bright Sword Forest and have a good rest." "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. Just as Ria had said, when she used the proud sword arts to fight with Meng Taifeng, she had entered a state of selflessness when fighting with an expert. She had even forgotten that she had consumed more than half of her strength. If Lin Muyu was like this, Meng Taifeng would not be any better. The elder of Tiannan was silent. He was surprised that the martial god Lin Muyu's cultivation was vaguely above Meng Taifeng's. However, he was relieved that Lin Muyu did not have the intention to fight for hegemony. If Lin Muyu really wanted to fight for hegemony in the eternal sword domain, this originally peaceful continent would soon be plunged into a bloody battle to the death. Everyone returned to the Bright Sword Forest and cultivated on their own. August 15th, Eastern Heaven Realm. On a barren spirit mountain, starlight shone. Spirit mountains were not like the mortal world. They were the condensation of power and core. Every beam of starlight was a seed, and the germination of these seeds also reflected the prosperity and decline of a plane. Rustle, rustle, Chu-Chu walked on the desolate mountain path. With every step he took, a layer of green ripples appeared under his feet. This was the ability of the god of recovery. Green buds began to grow in the surrounding barren grass, and everything began to recover again. Behind him, Qing Ping smiled and said, "Chu is indeed powerful. With you around, the speed of the Eastern Heaven Realm's law recovery will far surpass that of the other three great heaven realms. This is really great." Chu-Chu said respectfully, "Lord Qing Ping is too kind. This is just my meager power as the god of recovery. You are too modest." Qing Ping shrugged, dusted the shawl behind her, and said with a smile, "Chu, I heard that you watched Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi grow up?" "Yes, I guess so." "Tell me quickly, how did Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, and you know each other? These three little guys have now become the rulers of a region. I really want to know about their past." "In the past?" Chu-Chu bent down and caressed a withered flower. Under his palm, the flower slowly regained its color. He said with a smile, "At that time, you was still a complete rookie. He even got into trouble and offended a local tyrant city lord. Later on, Her Royal Highness Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi joined forces to protect him. After that, you stayed in the temple to cultivate, and I occasionally taught him one or two moves. At that time, I only felt that you was as close to me as my own grandson, and I also felt that he was a promising talent. But I really didn't expect that you would grow to such an extent. The only martial god in the world, the strongest war god, who would have thought, yes, who would have thought?" Qing Ping smiled softly and said, "I also didn't expect the Eastern Heaven Realm to fall to such a state. Yes, the high and mighty gods have now become the target of the demon realm's hunt. How ironic." Chu-Chu raised his head and looked at the distant stars, but suddenly seemed to sense something. He couldn't help but frown and said, "Lady Qing Ping, can you see anything in the universe? Is there?" Qing Ping also looked, but how could she see it with her mortal eyes? Chu-Chu, on the other hand, felt it clearly. A thick barrier was slowly condensing between heaven and earth, and behind the barrier appeared countless dense auras. It was the evil aura of the people of the demon realm, but he couldn't see it. It seemed that it was blocked by the barrier. This demonic aura could be hidden from the eyes of others, but it couldn't be hidden from the eyes of Chu-Chu. As the god of revival, he was far more sensitive to the aura of all living things than Xiao and the others, who were second-class superior gods. Things are not good, the demon realm is going to invade. Chu-Chu stood up and said, "Lady Qing Ping, let's hurry back and inform Xiao Fairy." Prepare as soon as possible, otherwise I'm afraid the Eastern Heaven Realm will not be able to defend. Qing Ping said in astonishment, Chu, what's going on? The army of the demon realm has attacked many times before, but you weren't so nervous. Why are you so nervous this time? It's different this time. Chu Chu gritted his teeth and said, I sense the aura of the Holy Emperor, and there is a kind of world-destroying power surging. It's the God-destroying tower. Ziyan has come in person. Quick, go quickly, inform Xiao. Okay. Chu Chu took the lead and flew away. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a ray of light that swept across the sky and entered the Hall of Great Accomplishment in the Eastern Heaven Realm. Xiao seemed to have also sensed something, but it was a little blurry. When she saw Chu Chu flying in, she couldn't help but ask, Chu, what's wrong? The demon realm is about to invade. Ziyan has come with the God-destroying tower, the Holy King, and countless experts of the demon general level. Fairy Xiao, please make a decision as soon as possible. Oh my God, Xiao was well aware of Chu Chu's ability to sense things and said without hesitation, I will inform the Demon Emperor and the Western Divine Realm now. If necessary, let them reinforce. Otherwise, the Eastern Heaven Realm will definitely not be able to defend. Yes. Xiao still did not move. Her telekinesis had already passed through the 10,000 layers of space and headed to the Northern Heaven Realm. After informing the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor of everything, the Demon Emperor immediately said that he would return to the East Heaven with the small mirror. Then, Xiao informed the people of the Western Divine Realm that once the Eastern Heaven Realm faced the danger of extinction, the Western Divine Realm would definitely reinforce. Alright, assign the orders. Xiao sat on the throne of the Eastern Heaven Realm and said, Sun Feng, Qing Ping, Chu Chu, Han Zi, each lead a team to guard the 4 sides of the Eastern Heaven Realm. Once the people of the Demon Realm invade, immediately fight back. We must not let them enter the Hall of Great Accomplishment easily. Yes. In the sky, there was a faint sound of thunder. Behind the transparent barrier, the demon chi surged, but no one could see it at all. They could only feel the pressure of death growing stronger. God, please bless us, Xiao murmured. But was praying really useful? If it was, there probably wouldn't be a heaven's tribulation. One by one, everyone stood on top of the spirit mountains, preparing to face the enemy. In the sky, the rumbling of thunder resounded. Suddenly, a purple light pierced through the barrier. A petite figure carrying a battle axe descended from the sky. The axe head emitted a light that soared to the sky, looking like she was going to split the entire Hall of Great Accomplishment in one strike. Wishful thinking. Xiao shouted, her figure suddenly became bigger, condensing her aura into the image of impartial goddess in the sky above the Hall of Great Accomplishment. She raised her palm, and a bright light burst out. Pang! Under the heavy blow, Bai Feng Holy King was knocked back along with his battle axe. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, but he couldn't help but reveal an evil smile. Impartial goddess Xiao, you're good. However, even if you can block my attack, can you block the army of the devil world? Children, attack, destroy these gods. Behind him, countless devil luos surged in from the huge crack in the barrier. They were so densely packed that they looked like black clouds crushing over. Sun Feng held his weapon and looked up at the sky, muttering, that brat Yu isn't here, and without the power of the Holy Marshal, we're all mortals, what should we do? This is getting serious. Chapter 1231. Formation, face the enemy. Qing Ping shouted. The army of mortals could only rely on long-range weapons, which were the bows and crossbows of the Eastern Heaven Realm. Although these bows and crossbows were very lethal, and once they hit a vital point, it was enough to kill the devil luo, but, after all, their power was limited, and they were unable to resist the devil luo army that filled the sky. Chu Chu stood majestically on the top of the mountain, looking at the densely packed Mara in the sky. He took a deep breath, raised his sleeves, and with a shout, the ground seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. This was the power of life. In an instant, the air was filled with vines, thorns, and so on, entangling Mara and slamming them to the ground. However, they could only entangle them, not kill them. After all, the attack power of the god of revival was still quite limited. Ocean wave. On the other side, sea god Han Zi held a spear in his hand. After a low roar, waves swept through the air, engulfing a group of Mara. This was a real attack, suffocating Mara to death. It could be considered a real and effective attack. However, it seemed to be far from enough. There were too many Mara falling from the sky. Buzz! A giant axe fell on a spirit mountain not far away. Suddenly, the mountain top was split open, and Sun Feng and the others were blown away by the powerful demonic flames. It was unknown whether Sun Feng was alive or dead, but it was certain that many crippled gods had been chopped into a pile of meat paste. In the clouds, a huge arm of light grabbed the giant axe and slowly descended. Another Holy King, Hellfire Holy King, one of the controllers of power in the demon realm. With just a swing of the axe, Sun Feng's team was scattered. Swish! Xiao floated to the bottom of the Hall of Great Accomplishment. The northern heavenly wheel in her hand pointed straight in the direction of the northern heaven realm, paving a fast passage. She gently raised the long sword in her hand, turning it into invisible sword chi that continuously bombarded the group of Mara in the sky. For a moment, the sky was filled with blood rain. The power of Xiao, a superior god, was after all not to be underestimated. It was so much so that even the Holy King Bai Feng and the others avoided her and didn't dare to fight Xiao head-on. However, at this moment, a huge blood-red palm descended from the sky amidst the rolling dark clouds. It was like an attack from a giant god, falling straight towards Xiao's head. Bang, 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 under the enormous pressure, the glazed tiles of the Hall of Great Accomplishment shattered, whereas Xiao gritted her teeth and stood there majestically. All the divine energy in her body condensed on her shoulders to resist the pressure of the enormous palm. Boom boom boom, in the sky, the sounds of explosions from the collision of the two divine powers rang out incessantly. Xiao raised his head to look at the clouds. There, a pair of eyes was also looking at him. It was a pair of eyes filled with hatred and resentment. Boom! A loud sound rang out. In the end, Xiao's strength was still unable to contend against the opponents. She was forced to kneel on the dragon bones of the Hall of Great Accomplishment, coughing up a mouthful of blood. She was already seriously injured. In the sky, the giant palm also slowly retracted. A figure descended from the sky. The surrounding Mara all knelt down, giving off the feeling of a monarch descending upon the world. The person who came was none other than Zi Yan. The god-slaying tower in his hand was glowing with a faint golden light. After so many days, the god-slaying tower was becoming more and more perfect. "You must be impartial goddess Xiao?" he asked. "Yes, so what?" Xiao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, raised her hand to grab her sword and fearlessly looked up at Zi Yan. "Nothing much, I just feel that a greater god of the Mahayana realm shouldn't be like this." "Aha, it's like a joke. You all claim to be just and just, but in the end, you, impartial goddess, are nothing more than an ant in my eyes. What right do you have to represent justice? From what I see, only I, Zi Yan, can represent justice. From now on, call me impartial Prince Charming, Zi Yan." "Ahaha." He laughed loudly. The group of Mara all respectfully greeted, "We greet impartial Prince Charming." Zi Yan's laughter became even more arrogant. Xiao gritted her teeth, the sword in her hand suddenly turned into a cold light and shot out, turning into a dark green dragon in the air, attacking the opponent with overwhelming power. But Zi Yan didn't move at all, waiting for her attack. The dragon's power kept hitting the god-slaying tower's shield, but in the end, it couldn't hurt Ziyan at all. Clang! Xiao's sword bounced off the edge of the god-slaying tower, falling into the endless darkness. Ziyan laughed loudly, the god-slaying tower in his hand glowed, saying, "Xiao, you laughable Xiao, you think you can kill me? Do you know what I've been doing for the past half a month? I've been cultivating the god-slaying tower. The current god-slaying tower's degree of perfection is unprecedented. I can continuously use the god-slaying tower's destructive attack 10 times. You laughable Mahayana realm gods are nothing but cannon fodder under the god-slaying tower. What else do you think you can do? You're spouting nonsense." Xiao's shoulders trembled. "You don't believe me?" Ziyan suddenly raised his arm, instantly a vast purple devil flame light shot out from the god-slaying tower. The light expanded and enveloped a person in the air not far away. It was sea god Hanzi. Hanzi cried out in pain. He couldn't withstand the might of the god-slaying tower. His body quickly disintegrated into dust. Even his god deity was instantly absorbed by the god-slaying tower. Phew! Ziyan opened his mouth and sucked the essence of Hanzi's god deity into his mouth. He smiled and said, "The power of a god is actually so delicious. This is great. This is great, sea god Hanzi." Xiao stood there in a daze. A powerful sea god couldn't even withstand one attack from the god-slaying tower? "Did you see that? Ha 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 ha." Ziyan laughed insolently. The god-slaying tower suddenly pointed towards Chu Chu not far away. He shouted, "Old fellow, it's your turn." Hong! The god-slaying tower once again spun rapidly. A beam of powerful demon realm energy shot out, directly locking onto Chu Chu. "Chu, be careful." Qing Ping was frightened to the point that her face turned pale. Chu Chu raised his sleeves, squinting his eyes as he looked at the beam of light approaching. With a "hong" sound, the god-slaying tower's light penetrated through Chu Chu's body, but it only scattered a few falling leaves. The surrounding green quickly gathered to form Chu Chu's body. What a good god of recovery! Ziyan raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Forget it, I can't waste the god-slaying tower's power on an old thing like you. With your cultivation, you can't do anything to me, so what if I spare your life?" Chu Chu was speechless. Ziyan was right. Ziyan had used the god-slaying tower to kill 2 holy emperor, absorbing their cultivation, and now he had also devoured sea god Hanzi's cultivation. The current Ziyan could already be said to be the strongest person in the world, and Chu Chu's law power was heading towards recovery. His attack power was even weaker than some attack law lower gods. Ziyan, who had the protection of the god-slaying tower, was not someone he could threaten. "It's your turn, impartial goddess." Ziyan smiled and raised the god-slaying tower, saying, "Accept the judgment of impartial Prince Charming." Wang wang wang, the god-slaying tower spun rapidly, starting to accumulate and reflect the entire demon realm's power. Almost everyone's gaze fell on Xiao. She was a Mahayana heavenly Tao upper god. If even Xiao was killed, then who could fight against Ziyan, who had the god-slaying tower? Come! Xiao did not plan to escape, nor could she escape. Even Lin Muyu, the martial god, could not escape the god-slaying tower's lock. It would be even more difficult for her to escape. Hong! A powerful beam of light suddenly descended. Xiao's shoulders trembled, tears flowed out of her eyes. "Demon Emperor, goodbye. You, Shao Yin, Shao Shi, goodbye." However, just when everyone thought that Xiao was dead for sure, a figure suddenly appeared above her head. That figure was so majestic, like a mountain blocking all damage for Xiao. The winter god's treasured mirror in his hand glowed even brighter, facing the god-slaying tower's light. A beam of ice light attack. Pang! The two powerful forces cancelled each other out in the air. Ha ha ha, the small mirror is still useful. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed maniacally. Ziyan, you be *starred, continue, let me see how powerful this god-slaying tower of yours is. Xiao's face was full of tears. Demon Emperor, darling, go away first. Demon Emperor said. Okay. Xiao floated away, and it became a confrontation between the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and Ziyan. Is it the Winter God's treasured mirror? Ziyan smiled faintly. 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, do you think a mere Winter God's treasured mirror can withstand the power of the God-slaying tower? How do you know if you don't try? Then come. Ziyan roared, and the God-slaying tower launched the 4th attack. Hong. The 2 artifacts collided again. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's eyes burned. Come again if you have the guts, don't be discouraged after 2 or 3 attacks. Damn it! Ziyan roared angrily. He was angered by the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. He used all his strength to activate the God-slaying tower, and this was a continuous 5 attacks. Peng peng peng, densely packed collision sounds came from the Winter God's treasured mirror. Not far away, Xiao shouted, the God-slaying tower can only attack 10 times in a short period of time, there is only 1 left. Ha ha ha. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed very brightly. Come again, this is your last chance. If you can't kill me, I will twist your head off and use it as a urinal. Ziyan gritted his teeth. You are courting death. God-slaying tower, final attack. Hong. This time, it was blocked by the Winter God's treasured mirror again. However, from the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's point of view, there were already countless cracks on the back of the Winter God's treasured mirror, and with a "pa" sound, the entire mirror was about to collapse. Damn, the small mirror is about to shatter. Oh my god, luckily it's not mine. He secretly rejoiced, but both his legs gathered godly power, and with a roar, he kicked the air. 7 luminary stars transformation. Beams of starlight shot towards the sky. Ziyan couldn't block it for a moment, and he quickly retreated, but the pitiful Mara was blasted into pieces. Retreat! Retreat! In the sky, there were shouts of retreat from the demon world army. They could only retreat, because on the surface, Ziyan had already lost, but they didn't know that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's Winter God's treasured mirror was destroyed, and the God-slaying tower could be used again after accumulating enough power. After watching Mara's army disappear, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's treasured mirror in the hands of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor turned into pieces. Demon Emperor, this. Xiao was shocked. How are we going to explain this to Dongming? It was clearly a borrowed Winter God's treasured mirror, but it has already been destroyed by us. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's gaze was deep, and he took a deep breath. Xiao, the mirror you used to dress yourself in the back hall of the Great Accomplishment Hall, do you think it looks like the Winter God's treasured mirror, if the mirror was painted with that kind of pattern? Xiao, Northern Heaven Realm, Black Rock City. Pang! Dongming smashed the table with a palm. I have never seen such a shameless person. You're tuning into the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.